My boyfriend brought home a stray cat for me to adopt, but it led to my untimely death. It wasn't until after my death that I discovered my half-sister had been having an affair with my boyfriend all along. She somehow learned the ability to transform into a cat, stole all my plans in the form of a kitten, and ultimately even drugged me to death. After death, I became a wandering spirit, watching my boyfriend tenderly embrace his illegitimate daughter, who had transformed back into a human, at my grave, revealing their entire scheme before my eyes. I charged forward in anger, seeking revenge, but could only pass through their bodies. Hatred kept festering. I shed tears of blood, demanding of the heavens why they were so unjust. Suddenly, a powerful force of suction made me lose consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, my boyfriend was in front of me, gently stroking a cat in his arms, and asked with a smile, "Wan, should we adopt this little kitten?" I hadn't even reacted yet when Su Jingming suddenly placed the cat into my arms. It wasn't until the sharp pain shot through my wrist that the calico cat in my arms glanced at the bloodstain on my skin and licked its paw. I instinctively threw the cat out, only then realizing I had been reborn. "What are you doing? I just grabbed you a little. You didn't have to throw the kitten out." Su Jingming's words faltered as he gently picked up the cat to check on it. His heart aching, the cat kept meowing and would occasionally hiss at me. My gaze was icy cold, just like in my previous life. When this alley cat, a bastard daughter's pet, scratched me on our first encounter, I thought the kitten was just stressed, but I never imagined it was actually a person with ulterior motives trying to harm me. "Su Jingming, you care more about a cat than your girlfriend who got scratched. If she doesn't like me, just take her away." I deliberately turned my head away, pretending to be angry, leaving both Su Jingming and the cat stunned. I've always been generous and fond of small animals, so I never get upset over such things. The cat immediately let out a yelp, and Su Jingming gave a sheepish smile. "Oh, how could I not care about you? The kitten was just stressed." Having finished speaking, he carefully placed the cat on the ground and made an excuse to leave. Wan, get along well with her. I'll come see you both tomorrow." I didn't stop it. I just picked up my phone and booked a spay/neuter package. It wasn't until after my death in my previous life that I discovered my dear sister Qingqian could transform into a cat for 12 hours a day, her body truly becoming that of a feline. But I was so caught up in the company power struggle that, under the cover of Su Jingming occasionally taking the cat back to his place, I never noticed my plans were stolen. The core ideas were leaked to competitors ahead of time, and even the boyfriend I thought loved me is breaking up with me over accusations of animal cruelty. In the end, I lost my company, my lover, and due to an unknown drug, I became a vegetative state. To make matters worse, someone barged into my hospital room and took photos that plunged me into the abyss. Who would ever suspect a cat? After death, I finally saw the true faces of the one by my side and those who once doted on me. But now it's different. I look at Qingqian, who's pretending to be well-behaved on the ground, and smile as I take out the cat carrier and let her inside. Qingqian knew I had mysophobia and thought I was taking her for a bath. It wasn't until she was on the operating table, hearing the doctor explain the precautions to me, that she realized I had actually brought her in to be spayed. But this was her body. Qingqian struggled violently, letting out continuous, piercing cries. I was getting in the next room and couldn't help but tear up. "It's okay, this is for the cat's own good." The nurse noticed my red-rimmed eyes and thought I was on the verge of tears from worrying about the kitten. I gave her a nod, then lowered my head, unable to hold back a wide grin. "I'm so excited, and this is just the first step of my revenge. If Su Jingming finds out, will he thank me for eliminating the possibility of the woman he loves carrying another man's child?" After all, in my past life, while professing his love for me, he was secretly feeding me sterilizing drugs. He even allowed Qingqian, right before my death, to summon several men to assault me and take photos, all just to solidify her position. The surgery had already begun, and Qingqian's cries had vanished at some point. I opened my phone, took a photo of the operating room, and sent it by tapping on Su Jingming's chat window. "Jingming, I've decided to keep the cat. I'm taking it to get spayed/neutered right now, too." I put down my phone and turned it on silent, but I could almost hear the sound of that young couple's defenses crumbling. Su Jingming had called me countless times from the other end of the line. I only answered his call after Qingqian, unconscious from anesthesia with her tongue lolling out, was wheeled out of the operating room. "Where are you right now? You can't spay her. You must not spay her." Chen Jingming's tone was frantic with urgency. He knew exactly what spaying meant for Qingqian and couldn't sit still for a second after seeing the message I sent. He kept sending me messages and calling while driving around the city, checking with pet stores. "It's way too late." I raised my phone and started a video call with him, aiming the camera at Qingqian, who was lying on a pee pad in the shape of a cat, and asked with a puzzled tone why sterilization is actually better for cats. And, the surgery is already done. The call was suddenly hung up on the other end, and I leisurely put my phone back in my bag, but Su Jingming couldn't help but shout out in the car, slamming the steering wheel hard, causing the horn to blare loudly. This was just the first step. Looking at the unconscious Qingqian, the hatred in my heart grew even stronger. As the product of her father's affair, she was brought into the house while her mother's body was still warm, along with her hypocritical, white lotus of a mother. I didn't mean to target the child. I only asked her mother to leave, and I treated the child fairly well. They're greedy. My father was an outsider, and I should have taken over the company when I came of age. He kept putting things off, but fate was unkind, and he ended up with cancer. So Qingqian stepped forward, attempting to seize power from me. In my past life, who would have thought a living person could turn into a cat? But now I know, and I will make them pay back every last bit of that debt. I didn't stop Su Jingming from crying hysterically over the cat, nor did I glance his way as I carried Qingqian back to my own home. Instead, after obtaining this surveillance footage, they bought marketing accounts the very next day and posted it online. Caption: Second young master Su suspected to have broken up with Miss Qing. Love ends at the pet store. Su Jingming didn't even have time to comfort Qingqian, who was smashing things frantically at home, and hurried over to stabilize me. The Su and Qing families have intricate business ties, and the Qing family has more than one son. If it weren't for me, he would never have secured the position of the Su family heir. 1-1. I was just too worked up that day. I looked it up and found that spaying a female kitten might not be good for her health. Please don't be mad. Su Jingming, holding a bouquet of 99 red roses, offered a pale explanation. I smiled, took the flowers, and said nothing, but he thought I had already forgiven him. He immediately took the crate containing Qingqian out of the trunk, his face full of ingratiation. I brought the kitten. Didn't you say you were willing to take care of her? We can look after her together from now on. I raised an eyebrow and smiled. All right. Bring her in. It'll be good for her to have some company, just like Xiaohu. 3. What Xiaohu? Su Jingming raised a question, but his face turned deathly pale the moment he saw Xiaohu. A large Maine Coon lounges lazily on the sofa, its eyes fixed intently on Qingqian inside the cat carrier. Cat-like Qingqian, who had previously agreed with Su Jingming not to reveal her true form, arched her back and let out continuous cries upon seeing a similar twice her size. It seems Xiaohu really likes this calico cat. No surprise, she's the belle of the feline world. I smiled, took the cat carrier from Su Jingming, and opened the door. Su Jingming instinctively flinched, but then remembered the plan with Qingqian, and finally handed over the box willingly. Tiger jumped off the sofa. This stud I specially borrowed from a friend's house. Young, spirited, and combative, but Qingqian had no idea and kept breathing heavily, completely irritating Xiaohu. Originally, Xiaohu had some fondness for her, but now he's been provoked into battle mode. Currently, I'm in a critical phase of seizing power, and the two projects in my hands almost determined success or failure. Qingqian returned this time with the same purpose as in her previous life. As a little kitten, it learned my password, then transformed into a human and stole all my plans and core secrets. For the first project, she submitted the proposal ahead of me, leaving me branded as the plagiarist who lost the trust of everyone. I want to make a comeback and fight to secure the second project from our competitor. However, Qingqian, in her pursuit of power, disregarded the company's interests and leaked core secrets to a competitor at a critical moment. The company was severely weakened, and I was forced to step down, ultimately meeting a tragic end. But this time around, it won't be so easy. Watching Qingqian get beaten up by Xiaohu and Su Jingming's pained expression, I won't let either of them off the hook. Su Jingming took one last, reluctant look at Qingqian before leaving. Originally, according to the plan, Qingqian should have tried every possible way to see my password, but because of Xiaohu, she never dared to. Qingqian was also full of hatred for me at that time. On the day of the sterilization, after she turned human, she immediately went with Su Jingming to check her reproductive function. Even the doctor was shocked by her condition. She could never hope to have her own child in this lifetime. Finally, after overcoming her psychological pressure, she avoided Xiaohu and made her way to the study. Suppressing her disgust, she coquettishly leaped onto my lap like a true cat. After seeing me deliberately log out and re-enter the password, he immediately left again. Before leaving, she glanced at me with her current cat-like eyes, full of pride, but I also smiled after she left and made a phone call. Hello, young Master Su, I'd like to discuss a collaboration with you. Out of nowhere, after Qingqian jumped onto my lap, I heard her human voice. That bitch made me suffer so much. Just wait until I steal all her luck and transfer Su Jinghe's fortune to Jingming. Let's see how smug she is then. This must be Qing Qian's inner voice having experienced rebirth. I quickly accepted this possibility and immediately contacted the other person mentioned in her inner voice, the eldest son of the Su family, Su Jinghe, for I experimented a few more times and discovered that whenever I made physical contact with Qing Qian beyond just our pause, I could hear her inner thoughts. I just found out that Qing Qian isn't just my sister, she's also a system-bound task performer. Her mission is to seize the fortune of the chosen ones in exchange for what she desires, and both Su Jinghe and I are her targets. Su Jinghe and I were merely acquaintances who would exchange nods. In his previous life, he was involved in a car accident shortly after I began dating Su Jingming, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down and gradually retreating to live in the mountains. Now, sitting at the same table with him, we both silently sensed that the other had come to know something. Looking forward to working with you. It's a pleasure working with you. I shook hands with Su Jinghe, and when I got home, I found that my computer had indeed been turned on. The phone also received a message from Su Jingming, saying he had taken the cat, namely Qing Qian, back to his home to stay for a few days. The fish has taken the bait. I sent a message to Su Jinghe within a few days. During the first project presentation planning session, I had just opened my PPT when Qing Qian, who had transformed into human form, suddenly let out a loud scream. Sister, your plan, how is it exactly the same as mine? Everyone was astonished as Qing Qian directly opened her own PowerPoint presentation. Sure enough, it was almost identical to mine. Sis, I've worked very hard on this proposal. I don't know how you came to know all this content, but, Qing Qian left her sentence hanging, inviting endless speculation. A low murmur of discussion began in the conference room, and a senior member of the company fixed a stern gaze on me, his voice grave. How do you say that? I spread my hands and countered Qing Qian. How can you prove I copied yours, and not the other way around? Qing Qian expected me to say that, and with a choked voice, she made a phone call. A familiar voice came through the phone, and Qing Qian seemed to have made up her mind, speaking slowly. Brother Jingming, do you remember the proposal draft you helped me with last time? Could you share the outline you prepared for me? Su Jingming's voice came from the other end as he went over the PPT outline, then patiently asked her what was wrong. The atmosphere in the meeting room shifted instantly. The person on the other end of the line was Su Jingming, my boyfriend. The phone hung up, and Qing Qian looked at me, her eyes gleaming with determination. This proposal was done by brother Jingming and me. He's my sister's boyfriend and originally helped me out as a favor to her. But I never expected my sister to actually. The senior executives at the head of the table also frowned. They wanted to side with me, but the current situation made it hard not to be suspicious. Suddenly, there was a knock on the conference room door. I looked at Qing Qian and smiled. The door was pushed open, and the sound of wheelchair wheels rolling broke the silence in the meeting room. Did I come at a bad time? 5. No. You came at just the right time. I pushed Su Jinghe's wheelchair forward and pointed to the plan on the display screen. Oh no. Our proposal has become someone else's. The meeting room erupted instantly. Qing Qian's face drained of color, her fingers clutching her skirt tightly. Although Su Jinghe had not been seen in public for a long time since the incident, he was once a legend among the younger generation. He was always the child from another family praised by the older generation. After the incident, even the Su family's old rivals lamented that heaven envies true talent compared to Su Jingming, who started later. Everyone clearly has more trust in Su Jinghe. Moreover, my abilities are clearly visible to everyone here, and Qing Qian is still an illegitimate daughter. All eyes turned to Qing Qian. I didn't give Qing Qian a chance to defend herself, suddenly turning to her with a clear voice. By the way, the proposal mentioned that plot of land in City A, a municipal park is planned for the east side, and that amusement park will be relocated. So, I paused, my gaze firmly locked onto Qing Qian's panicked eyes. You also mentioned the family-oriented commercial complex planned as a supporting facility next to the park, which 3 local family brands are to be prioritized for introduction. This was a key supplementary item I specifically added. The main body of the proposal only stated the introduction of high-quality local brands, without listing specific names. However, given the level of detail in the proposal, the writer could not have been unaware. How would Qing Qian know? She simply copied my template exactly as it was, familiarizing herself with the existing content. Originally thought that with Su Jingming's testimony and the element of surprise, they could strike me down decisively. Who would have thought that Su Jinghe would suddenly appear? And I even asked her something she didn't know at all. Qing Qian's face instantly turned from deathly pale to ashen, her fingers twisting the hem of her skirt with such force that her knuckles turned white. She opened her mouth, her eyes darting subconsciously toward the door, and could only mumble evasively, I remember they were a few with good reputations, the specific names, Brother Jingming mentioned them when he was organizing the materials. I didn't pay close attention to the details, as it was just supplementary information, didn't pay close attention. I chuckled softly and turned to look at Su Jinghe when we met with Director Wang from the Planning Bureau. Last week, he praised the brands we chose for being down-to-earth. Do you remember which three he mentioned? Su Jinghe tapped his fingers lightly on the wheelchair armrest, the sound crisp and steady, as he delivered words not included in the proposal, each syllable echoing through the silent meeting room. What else do you have to say? A high-ranking official suddenly slammed his hand on the table, making Qingqian jump in fright. I unplugged the hard drive and smiled at everyone in the conference room. Sorry, I'll leave today's presentation to my dear sister. Right now, I might need to figure out why my boyfriend said he worked on this withdrawal proposal with her. After saying that, I pushed Su Jinghe and left. The next day, ignoring Su Jingming's frantic apologies at my doorstep, I posted a breakup announcement and deliberately spread rumors, openly and subtly suggesting that we are determined to secure the second project, setting a trap to lure you in. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Qingqian's cat form hurried back to the doorstep, meowing in a high-pitched voice to be led inside. 6. I lifted her into my arms, her thoughts continuously cursing me, Su Jinghe, and the system that had inexplicably gone silent. I went along with her wishes, picked her up and sat her on the desk, then opened the so-called new confidential file. Once I secure this project, I can finally crush you under my heel. You wretch, Qingqian's inner voice cursed me venomously, yet her kitten form remained utterly soft and adorable. I stroked her head, placed her on the desk, and as I reached the door, I pretended to take a call, saying I needed to step out for a while. Actually, sitting at a coffee shop not far from home, watching the surveillance footage on my phone, waiting for their move. Such magic. Watching the tiny kitten on the monitor, I saw it suddenly shed its fur, grow larger, and transform into Qingqian's naked form. She swiftly stole items from the computer and, with practiced ease, retrieved a small communicator from the corner of the living room sofa. She spoke into the communicator, and before long, Su Jingming arrived with clothes. But the two of them actually did it in my living room. I didn't get to use any of the clothes I brought at all. I slammed my phone down, my face flushed red. I'm so angry. That was a rug I had shipped all the way from abroad. Fighting back my disgust, I saved those videos, watching the two of them being all lovey-dovey, waiting for them to deliver that core secret to the rival company. But then something unexpected happened. The video from the pet store space/neuter day has gone viral again, though no one knows who started it. And this time, Su Jingming, who I had announced breaking up with, stepped forward. He shared that video, claiming the reason I want to break up with him is because I can't stand him stopping me from abusing cats. 7. A huge pot was placed on my head, but netizens couldn't tell if it was real or fake. But in the video, I looked indifferent, while Su Jingming was holding the cat, visibly emotional, along with the 1,000-word essay he posted driven by certain individuals. The Qing family stock price kept falling, and I received a warning from the higher-ups. Qingqian's cat form kept circling around me, seeing my expressionless face as I looked at my phone. Its tail was held high, clearly in a very good mood. These days, Qingqian was forced to stay by my side. Her system suddenly vanished, and she temporarily lost the ability to transform into a human, handing over all plans to Su Jingming. I ignored it and slipped some breeding medicine into her food. It's the final hour. I'm going to deal with them one by one. Not long after eating, Qingqian unconsciously began to raise her tail, and her cries grew increasingly soft. I picked her up, placed her in the carrier, and took her to the home of the friend who had helped me adopt Xiao Hu. When I met Qingqian, I could hear her inner voice constantly wondering, "It's so hot. Why is it so hot?" By the time we arrived at the cat cafe run by my friend, she no longer had the energy to dwell on such thoughts. Completely consumed by her physical desires, the stud tiger, returned to his friend, also got in the mood and carried Qingqian by the scruff of her neck back to his own den. I recorded a video yesterday and sent it to Su Jingming, who is still guiding public opinion online. Aren't you the one who treasures this kitten so much? Look at her, how happy she is playing now. How can you accuse me of mistreating her? Su Jingming's eyes turned red watching from the other end of the phone. He rushed to the cat cafe in a panic, pointed at my nose, and started yelling, "How could you? Why can't I?" I crossed my arms and raised an eyebrow. Su Jingming's mouth opened and closed, but he couldn't say anything. He could only leave in a huff, holding Qingqian, the most doted upon kitten of the bunch. What happened next was likely out of spite. The online backlash doubled. My silence and failure to explain myself have branded me, in the public eye, As an unforgivable cat abuser, Su Jinghe praised my patience, but only we knew the real reason why I never fought back. 8. Finally, it was time for the second project bid. I had just taken my seat when I saw Su Jingming walk into the conference room, laughing and chatting with our competitor. Everyone's eyes were on me, both openly and covertly, while the opposing side's gaze was filled with utter disdain. As if victory was already assured today, I saw Su Jingming carrying a rather large briefcase, bulging and occasionally shifting as if something inside was moving. How profound the affection is. I'm referring to Qing Qian's feelings for me. Even in the dire predicament of being unable to turn back into a human, she still chose to witness my defeat in such a risky manner. The bidding began, and as expected, our competitor was thoroughly familiar with the proposal I presented, clearly having done their homework. Su Jingming sat in his seat, his gaze fixed on me with a sinister, calculating look. He hadn't been having an easy time lately either, dealing with a breakup and the sudden power struggle initiated by his brother, Su Jinghe. His position, never solid to begin with, was now even more precarious and difficult to maintain. I'll see how long you can keep laughing, now. Su Jingming stopped pretending and mouthed these words to me. I tilted my head, effortlessly handling the other side's veiled barbs. I waited until the rival team's lead had finished spitting out his last line about keeping costs under 120 million before leisurely raising my tablet. Projected onto the conference room's large screen were unmistakably audio files of our competitor's private dealings with Su Jingming, along with chat records from Qing Qian on my computer, confidential messages she thought had been deleted. 120 million, I let out a soft laugh, my fingertip gliding across the screen to switch pages. But the quote you negotiated with the building materials supplier last week was clearly 80 million. The entire room erupted in uproar. The opposing party's leader turned deathly pale, pointing at me but unable to utter a word. Su Jingming abruptly stood up, and Qing Qian inside the briefcase seemed to panic as well, emitting faint scratching sounds. I was glad to see their faces turn dark with anger, pointing at me and stammering you repeatedly, then turning sharply to glare fiercely at Su Jingming. Bidding continues, but the so-called core secrets stolen from me were all decoys I had prepared long ago. Effortlessly, I won. Su Jingming slumped dejectedly into the chair, staring at me with red-rimmed eyes, lost in thought. Even the bundle of Qing Qian in the briefcase had gone completely still. The crowd gradually dispersed, and in the end, only the two of us and a cat remained in the meeting room. Su Jingming was just about to leave with his briefcase when I reached out and stopped him. What's in your bag? It's moving. Su Jingming hugged his bag warily, insisting it was nothing while trying to sidestep away, but I blocked his path. Wait a bit, with your beloved Qing Qian. As soon as I said it, Su Jingming was completely stunned. What do you mean? I smiled and pointed at the briefcase in his arms. Aren't you coming out yet, my dear little sister? Before they could even struggle, the conference room door suddenly swung open. Su Jinghe wheeled in slowly, pushing a wheelchair with a peculiarly shaped computer in hand. Have I come at a bad time again? It's always so tense whenever I arrive. 9. I couldn't be bothered to banter with him any longer. Under Su Jingming's horrified gaze, I slowly revealed the secret they had kept hidden for so long. Say, do you think people like this, especially those who can turn into cats, might get caught and taken to a lab for research? Don't you think so? Qing Qian in the briefcase couldn't stay put any longer. She popped right out of the bag, ready to pounce on me, her claws already extended to swipe at my face. But how can a little kitten stand against humans? I dodged back, swiftly grabbing her by the scruff of the neck and slipping her into the cat carrier I had prepared earlier and placed in the meeting room. She kept letting out piercing cries from behind the wire fence. Su Jinghe snapped back to reality and tried to rush to her rescue, but I kicked him in the back of the knee, sending him crashing to the ground. Just as they were capturing Qing Qian, she kept cursing at Xinxing. Action. Su Jingming rose to resist again, but was restrained by the special task force already at the door. Let go of me, let go. What right do you have to touch my cat? I'll sue you. His emotions were unusually agitated, but he stubbornly refused to admit the cat was Qing Qian until Su Jinghe turned on that oddly shaped computer, and a ball of light began pulsating on the screen. The cries from Qing Qian's cat mouth also transformed into a human voice. You'll die a horrible death. Qing Qian's cat face suddenly went blank, as if surprised that she could speak human words. 54250, is that the host you're referring to? Su Jinghe pressed a button, and the light sphere on the screen began to move faster, as if stimulated. It is. A peculiar mechanical sound came from the computer, but it sounded terribly weak. System, what are you doing here? Qing Qian screamed, unable to understand why the long lost system had appeared here. and had transformed into a glowing orb inside the computer. Su Jingming surveyed his surroundings with a look of alarm and uncertainty. A cat speaking aloud should, in normal circumstances, shock and terrify people, yet the crowd around it remained calm, as if they had already known about it. Qing Qian also realized this the very next second, feeling a sense of reckless abandon, as if ready to fight to the bitter end. "When did you find out?" she asked me. I said nothing, only shook my head regretfully at her. Then took out the hard drive and played the footage captured by the surveillance camera earlier. I thoughtfully repositioned the cat carrier, and Su Jingming's face instantly paled as he watched the video. The spectacle of cats transforming into humans, along with the entwined figures on my living room floor, was broadcast in all its nakedness on the big screen. "When did you install surveillance?" Su Jingming collapsed to the ground, completely drained of strength. The sound system still emitted embarrassing moans, but no one cared. 10. I nodded at Su Jinghe, grateful for his help. Long before I connected with Su Jinghe, he had already sensed something off about the people around him. That car accident was far too unexpected, and Su Jingming's younger brother also emerged quite suddenly. At the same time, his luck seemed to start tilting in Su Jingming's favor. By the time I sought him out, he had already begun investigating certain unnatural events. With my assistance and the evidence, we successfully collaborated with a special department to capture this so-called system, and from its mouth, I learned the truth about the so-called stealing of fortune. "You lied to me, you're just a defective product." Upon hearing the system's words, Qing Qian completely broke down. This so-called system was not, as it had claimed, a sympathetic entity that recognized her as a chosen one with great potential but lacking fortune, but rather a near-scrap, non-compliant system. It saw Qing Qian's ambition and bound itself to her through a contract, but it never does anything at a loss. If Qing Qian fails to seize the fortune of me and Su Jingming, the contract will backfire and drain her life force instead. Though not as fortunate as the chosen one, it still has enough luck to seek out its next host. This time we were able to catch it because it sensed that Qing Qian might fail, so it came out early to seek a new host. Qing Qian has completely lost her mind. The system's stored energy is nearly depleted. It no longer even has the power to revert Qing Qian back to human form. Qing Qian thrashed wildly against the wire mesh of the cat carrier, her cries sharp and desperate. "Impossible. You clearly said I was the chosen one. You said that by seizing the luck of Qing Wan and Su Jinghe, I could become the sole heir, the young mistress of the Su family. You lied to me." The system's mechanical voice grew increasingly faint, the light sphere on the screen flickering on and off. "The contract was always thus: host failure, energy backlash." I looked at the completely out of control Qing Qian and said coldly, "You're just too greedy. You coveted my family background, Su Jinghe's fortune, and even went so far as to harm others. Now you're simply reaping what you've sown." Su Jingming was pinned against the wall by the special team members, his face drained of all color as he watched the scene unfold. He finally realized that he had been nothing but a tool for Qing Qian and the system all along, using his ambition as a stepping stone, his emotions as a facade, only to drag him into the abyss in the end. Special Investigation Bureau agents stepped forward to collect the computer containing the system, and the team leader paused deliberately as he passed by the cat carrier. According to the regulations, Qing Qian is required to cooperate with the investigation for carrying prohibited systems and being suspected of intentional harm and commercial crimes. The case will subsequently be archived following the unnatural incident handling procedures. Qing Qian froze at the mention of unnatural incident handling, her voice trembling. "I don't want to be studied, Qing Wan. I was wrong. I won't argue with you anymore. Just let me go." I let out a cold laugh, bent down to look at her, and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear, "Impossible. I'll still take care of your mother. After all, this system originally parasitized your mother, didn't it?" 11. It wasn't until I seized control of the system that I discovered there had been another chosen one before Su Jinghe and me. My mother. At that time, the host of the system was none other than Qing Qian's mother. Unlike Qing Qian, she succeeded. My mother jumped from the building, her blood splattering before my eyes. The very next day, Qing Qian and her mother moved into the house that had been cleaned up, including my previous life. That makes 2 bloody lives lost. Su Jinghe pushed the wheelchair over, patted the back of my hand reassuringly, and handed a document to the leader of the investigation team. "This is a backup of the surveillance footage showing Qing Qian transforming into a cat to infiltrate the Qing Corporation and steal commercial secrets. We are submitting it as well." The team leader took the document and signaled to his subordinates. 2 officers stepped forward, opened the cat carrier, and secured Qing Qian with a specialized collar. Once the collar was fastened, she was too weak to even cry out and could only be listlessly carried away. Su Jingming watched Qingqian being led away, then suddenly collapsed to the floor, burying his hands in his hair and letting out a choked sob. He once thought he could soar to the heavens by relying on Qingqian and the system, never imagining that the higher he climbed, the harder he would fall. Watching him in this state, I felt not a shred of pity. Su Jingming, you chose this path yourself, Su Jing has spoken a calm tone. Let's go. The rest is up to the investigation bureau. It's over. I nodded and turned to leave the meeting room. The hatred from the previous life has finally been resolved, and those who once harmed me have received their due punishment. But the matter is far from over. This world has more than one defective system. My next target is to take down those demons in disguise. End of text. The first story ends here. Don't go anywhere. The next one is even better. The first thing I did after being reborn was to refuse the 300,000 yuan living allowance from my parents and instead take out a massive online loan because in my past life, my roommate had bound a system that could swap any money I received with hers. No matter how much money I asked my family to transfer, my account balance would always show only 300 yuan. Meanwhile, using my money, she became the glamorous campus belle adored by the whole school, dated the school heartthrob, and then turned around to label me as the malicious, impoverished student she was supposedly supporting. Fuming, I opened the transfer records from my parents to prove my point, only to be shocked to find that every amount had changed to 300. Meanwhile, my roommate pitifully held up her phone. Look, my parents send me 300,000 every month. I don't understand why Qiao refuses to face reality. I was bombarded with a torrent of attacks and insults. Every relative who came forward to testify for me met with misfortune and died tragically, and my own health rapidly deteriorated. In the end, the campus heartthrob, seeking to avenge my roommate, had people drag me into a grove where I was tortured to death. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. This time, I'm going to see just how long my roommate, now saddled with massive online loan debt, can keep up the act. 1. Song Qiao, you're truly disgusting. So all your designer clothes were bought with someone else's money. Even the wealthy Miss G isn't as flashy as you. It's outrageous to spend so lavishly when you're living off someone else's charity. Only someone as kind-hearted as Miss G would put up with you. Anyone else would have kicked you out long ago. Speak up, stop playing dead, get on your knees and apologize to Miss G right now, or don't blame us for what happens next. As the stream of curses continued to echo in my ears, I felt a moment of disorientation before realizing I had truly been reborn. Back to the day when my roommate GCC used the system to impersonate a wealthy heiress, labeling me as a poor student. She was funding me at that moment. Seeing that I hadn't spoken up yet, GCC stepped forward and kindly broke the silence. Jojo, you're not trying to say all this money came from your parents and you're actually a rich girl, are you? Why don't you just show us your balance then, so everyone can see, or have your parents transfer you hundreds of thousands right now, so we'll all be left speechless. In my past life, I fell for the trap, staring at the mere 300 yuan balance in my card, unable to believe my eyes. I desperately had my parents transfer money to me. In my eagerness to prove myself, I never imagined I would instead pave her way, allowing her to amass a massive fortune and solidify her status as a wealthy heiress. And all the money my parents sent me, the moment I raised my phone to check, had turned into transfers of just a few dozen yuan. In an instant, I became the target of public condemnation. Everyone was denouncing me as vain and selfish, accusing me of forcing my impoverished parents to sacrifice for my own selfish desires. As I was contemplating how to fight against this system, Meng Jianian, the school heartthrob who had remained silent until now, suddenly spoke up. Song Qiao, even now you still refuse to admit it. Someone as vain and selfish as you is utterly unworthy of Cece's help. Just thinking about how you used to pester and chase after me makes me sick. His brows furrowed in disgust as he stepped forward and shoved me hard to the ground. During military training, it was him who took the initiative to strike up a conversation with me. He said the necklace I was wearing around my neck was so beautiful that he wanted to borrow it for a closer look, thinking he might buy one for his own mother. But now, he shoved me hard to the ground. My shoulder ached terribly, and everyone around us erupted, cheering and shouting, "Well done." Meng Jianian, GCC became even more worked up. She bit her lip, looking at me with tearful eyes, showing no intention of helping me up. Qiao, I never thought we'd come to this. As roommates, if you had just admitted your mistake to me, it would have been enough. I wouldn't have pressed the advantage. But why did you have to stubbornly twist the truth and turn black into white? Did I ever say I was going to be stubborn? I gritted my teeth and pulled myself up from the ground, forcing a smile. I'm sorry, Miss G. I was indeed being vain before, using The money you gave me to buy these things, as a form of punishment, I'll donate them to a charity for resale. I also hope Miss G won't hold it against me and can continue to support me in the future." The students, who had been ready with a whole belly full of words, were suddenly at a loss for what to say, exchanging awkward glances. Seasoned Cece was also taken aback, her eyes flickering for a moment. "Chow chow. You don't have to go this far. If you really want to admit your mistake, why not sell it first and donate directly? What if those people end up damaging it?" "No worries, I trust the professionals. If I sell it first, will I still have money to donate? Won't the money just go straight to her?" I turned around, my expression completely turning cold. I logged into the lending platform and tried to apply for a 100 yuan online loan as expected. After the application was successful, the money did not arrive in my bank account. When I re-entered the page, I discovered that the borrower listed had actually become GCC. Sure enough, the system had swapped everything thoroughly, even changing the source of the funds. I can't help but laugh. "GCC, your nightmare is about to begin too." I took out a total of 600,000 in online loans in one go, then called to refuse my parents' request to send me living expenses, apply for off-campus housing, and cover all expenses using existing funds. Even so, my chest still feels tight. The effects of the system on my body haven't gone away. At noon, as I walked out of the school gate with my small bag on my back, I saw GCC and Meng Jianyan waiting for a bus by the roadside, followed by many classmates. Everyone saw me, their faces filled with mocking expressions. "Jojo." GCC called my name loudly and ran towards me, her face beaming with joy. "What a coincidence, I was just talking about you." I thought about it, and giving a man a fish feeds him for a day, but teaching him to fish feeds him for a lifetime. I've decided I won't just give you money anymore. Instead, I'll help you find a part-time job. I have to say, money really does wonders for a person. Nowadays, GCC is dressed head to toe in designer brands, and the insecurity and sensitivity in her eyes have completely vanished. It's hard to believe she was once the girl who could only afford a single plate of shredded potatoes with her meal. I'm truly curious, what method did she use to bind me like this? She pulled out a stack of flyers and shoved them into my hands, looking at me earnestly. "Those above are all high-paying jobs I've carefully selected for you. Once you earn money through your own efforts and donate it, people will no longer hate you." My eyes are sore from searching for all this. "Since I'm about to treat my classmates to a 5-star hotel meal, it's your turn to pick up the tab this time." I've never seen someone so shameless. They're using the money my parents sent me and still expect me to take on a part-time job to support them. What kind of nonsense is printed on these flyers? There's even an ad for selling eggs. At that moment, Meng Jianian and the other classmates walked over. The students began speaking up with disdain. "Song Chia Chiao, what are you still standing there for? Some part-time jobs are about to close registration. Hurry up and go, they won't wait for you." Cece's parents just sent her another 600,000 yuan. That's more than your parents could earn in a lifetime, even if they never ate or drank. And here you are, a scholarship student, just lazing around without a care. At some point, a gleaming Rolex appeared on Meng Jianyan's wrist, estimated to be worth several 100,000 yuan. It clearly looked like it was chosen by a woman. I couldn't help but sneer. GCC really spares no expense when chasing after a guy. No wonder she's so desperate to get money from me. As a student, I believe my priority should be focusing on my studies, I said with a smile. From now on, I plan to limit my monthly living expenses to just 300 yuan, not a penny more, and I welcome everyone to hold me accountable. I turned to leave when someone suddenly grabbed my arm. "Is that any way for a poor student to speak to your young lady?" Meng Jiajin shoved me away as if I were something filthy, his face twisted in disgust. "Cece went out of her way to find these part-time jobs for you. What gives you the right to refuse? Do you really enjoy being a freeloader that much?" His chilling gaze overlapped with the look in his eyes from my past life when he watched others harm me. And instinctively, my breath caught. He had already flung me forcefully to the ground, then turned and walked away, pulling GCC along. A sudden thought flashed through my mind. It seems Meng Jianyan isn't treating me this way just to please GCC. He actually seems to truly hate me. 3. It took a long time before my driver finally arrived in a Rolls-Royce to pick me up. By then, I was already drenched in sweat from the heat. He calmly parked the car and then honked twice to signal me to come over. "Uncle Meng, why are you so slow?" I was almost passing out from heatstroke. My back was already soaked through by the time I got in the car. He was clearly in a good mood, but hearing this, he put on a stern face and said, "If you ask me, you really need to work on that princess attitude of yours. I'm your family's driver, not your servant. I'm practically your elder. After all, how can you talk to me like that?" Standing for a while, which girl is as Delicate as you. I won't allow my son to date someone like you. At that moment, I was scrolling through my classmates' social media posts on my phone. Oh my god, Meng's family is so powerful. They even let us ride in a Rolls-Royce. So this is what a starry sky roof looks like. Wow, this is so impressive. I just wish there was one more car next time. I want a Maybach. If we hadn't wasted time teaching that shameless scholarship student a lesson, we'd be cooling off in our luxury car by now. I froze. That's my family's car, isn't it? I immediately checked with someone and found out that Uncle Meng's son was actually Meng Jianyan. Everything makes sense now. No wonder in my past life, no matter how hard I tried to prove my identity, there was always a mole leaking information. No wonder Meng Jiani was so eager to kill me. Likely, everything was a coordinated effort between him and GCC. My hand slowly reached up to the necklace that Meng Jiani had borrowed during military training. It seems that's when it started. GCC, who was originally a poor student, suddenly became incredibly wealthy. Unfortunately, I was using my meal card every day and didn't pay much attention to my balance, which gave her the chance. Miss Jojo, what are you trying to do? With a sudden, sharp break, Uncle Meng glanced at me through the rearview mirror, his eyes filled with lingering fear. Then fixed on my hand as I was about to remove the necklace. He exclaimed in panic, "This was a gift from Madame for your coming of age. You're not thinking of taking it off, are you?" Seeing his reaction, the answer became perfectly clear. Of course not. I'll just touch it for a moment. I let out a laugh, decisively closed my eyes, and from the driver's seat came the sound of the man letting out a sigh of relief. Back at the villa, I immediately took off that necklace, called my dad, and told him to fire Uncle Meng for being disrespectful. I then enjoyed a meal prepared by a French chef, and after eating and drinking my fill, I lay down on the bed. Sure enough, after removing this necklace, I felt the tightness in my chest ease, as if a heavy stone had suddenly been lifted from me. To avoid alerting anyone, I rummaged through the drawer and put on an identical one around my neck. So now, GCC, all you have left is that massive 600,000 yuan online loan for during the afternoon PE class. After running 800 meters, all the students were completely exhausted and collapsed on the lawn, unable to move. Their faces flushed red. I was also drenched in sweat, gasping for breath from exhaustion. GCC suddenly called out to me, "Qiao Qiao." She put on an air of a young lady and instructed me, "We're all tired. Could you go buy everyone a bottle of water? It's just outside the school gate. Sorry for the trouble. Please come back as soon as you can." She calculated it perfectly. I had already been to the school clinic 3 times recently due to feeling unwell, so that 300 must have been nearly gone. Now that I don't have enough money, of course I need to ask my parents to transfer me some so she could sit back and reap the benefits, all while gaining good favor with others. But now, after deactivating the system, I didn't indulge her at all and said coldly, "You make it sound so easy. There are 80 people here. Why don't you go yourself?" GCC bit her lip, looking at me with a troubled expression. "Jojo, I just wanted to give you a chance to mend things with your classmates. I've transferred you so much money before, and I'm sure you haven't spent it all. Since you don't have much to do right now, why not go buy water for everyone? Consider it a contribution to the group." A subtle light flickered in her eyes. "If you really have no money, just ask your parents for it. They have to support you, after all." The surrounding classmates were sweltering and spoke up angrily. "Cece treated us to lunch at a 5-star restaurant today. See how generous she is. We're all in the same dorm. But how come you're only ever taking and never giving? How dare you disobey Miss Cece's orders? You must have a death wish. Who do you think you are? You're already broke, and now you're being stingy too. Is a few dozen yuan going to kill you? My legs are about to give out. Hurry up and go get me a bottle of Gatorade." I looked at this crowd of greedy, self-serving fence-sitters and sneered coldly. "You really have some nerve. So only you're tired. Am I supposed to just be at your disposal, eh?" Hurried footsteps suddenly sounded behind Song Qiao. "You despicable woman," only to see Meng Jianyan storming over, furious over his father's dismissal, yet unable to confront me directly. He had attacked me several times before without facing any consequences, so now he's accustomed to publicly reprimanding me. He raised his hand to slap me, but I dodged it directly. "Oh, isn't this the rich kid whose family owns a Rolls-Royce? Why are you trying to hit me right away? Did I do something to offend you?" I asked with an innocent look, not forgetting to steer the narrative. "It's so hot out. Just me buying water isn't enough. Why don't you, young Master Meng, and Miss G call over a few luxury cars and take everyone for a drive to cool off?" The moment he said that, the students immediately got excited, everyone clamoring to ride in the luxury car. Only those 2 looked utterly miserable. I said lazily, "What are you waiting for, Master Meng? You don't happen to be a fake rich guy like me, do you? This remark undoubtedly struck a nerve with Meng Jianyan's sensitive temperament, and he immediately pointed at my nose and started yelling at me, "Open your eyes and take a good look. My shoes alone cost tens of thousands, this watch is over 400,000, and even this t-shirt is more than 8,000, who are you to bark at me like this? Does everything you're wearing even add up to 100 yuan? What gives you the right to question me? Am I right, everyone?" The other students were practically melting in the heat and had no patience for his showboating, urging him impatiently instead. "In that case, Mr. Meng, why don't you call a few more cars over? We haven't had our fill of rides yet this afternoon." Exactly, having so many of us crammed into one car at noon was really uncomfortable, not to mention listening to you and Miss G flirt all the way. "You two definitely owe us big time, Ji Qianjin, otherwise you can just call a car." GCC also saw that approaching this group was like throwing a meat bun at a dog. Their desires would only keep growing. She certainly wouldn't agree to pay for them again. "Can't take it anymore. My head is spinning, feels like I'm getting heat stroke." GCC suddenly staggered a couple of steps, pretended to faint and fell towards the ground. Meng Jianian scooped her up in his arms and ran outside using the excuse of going to the restroom. I secretly followed behind. 5 In the infirmary. GCC was sweating profusely under the fan. Meng Jianian sat beside her, peeling an apple for her. "What the hell is wrong with this bitch? Has she figured something out? She absolutely refuses to ask her family for living expenses, and she won't even take on a part-time job when I tell her to." The more GCC thought about it, the more frightened she became. She sat bolt upright in bed. She must have realized something was off. I thought it was strange when she suddenly moved out of the dorm for no reason. Now it looks like she discovered that the money she gets is being transferred away by me, so she's decided not to take a single cent and just use what she already has. Meng Jianian narrowed his eyes, handed her the apple, and a cold, sinister smile appeared on his face. "Even if she figures out something's wrong, what can she do? Don't forget, under the system's influence, her health will keep deteriorating. Her parents are abroad most of the time. When she collapses and ends up in the hospital, we'll have her parents transfer the medical fees. Eventually, the money will end up in our hands. I just can't stand people born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Why should she be a rich heiress while I'm just the son of her family's driver? She doesn't get to live that easy." From that day on, GCC began living together with Meng Jiani outside of school. Their social media feeds are a daily showcase of mansions, luxury goods, and extravagant parties. A level of opulence that would leave anyone astonished. They even celebrate an anniversary every 3 days, complete with accompaniment from professional violinists. GCC happily captioned, "I never imagined such a perfect love would come my way. Every morning, I wake up to fresh fruit airlifted from New Zealand. When I get tired from watching dramas, he takes me to 5-star restaurants to nourish me. He's so thoughtful. If I'm even slightly upset, he showers me with gifts from Louis Vuitton and Hermes. I'm basking in happiness every single day." Meng Jianian also left a heartfelt comment below. "The moment I met you, the whole world faded into the background. I will always protect you, my princess." In the spacious classroom, the students were completely abuzz upon seeing this. "Holy crap, this is next level. I've only seen this kind of power couple union of wealthy heirs in TV dramas and novels. Envy is making me cry. This is literally the perfect love story between novel protagonists. It's no surprise that true romantics only come from wealthy, privileged families. Let me have a script like this in my next life too. I'd love to experience a life so effortlessly perfect." Of course, some people still couldn't resist dragging me out to take the blame. "This is hilarious. Song Chachiao is going to be green with envy when she sees this." No matter how hard she tried to cozy up to Meng Jianian before, she never managed to catch up. Oops, everyone has their own standards for who they associate with. Cece is a wealthy heiress, so she should receive gifts worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. But Song Chachiao, getting a bracelet worth just a few hundred yuan, would be so grateful she'd cry. With such low status, Meng Jianyan wouldn't even bother with someone like that. Haha, Song Chachiao would probably want to jump off a building if she heard this. The guy she's been chasing after just publicly humiliated her by getting together with a girl from a similar social background, and that casually shared gift from them. She could never afford something like that in her entire life. I listened to this, my expression remaining completely unchanged, because just now, my parents abroad felt guilty for not spending enough time with me, so they bought me 5 villas, letting me stay wherever I want during summer vacation. With all this wealth at my disposal, how could I possibly be the slightest bit disturbed by such noise around me? Moreover, these two people's good days are about to come to an end. Finally, the debt collectors showed up at the door, demanding GCC Repay the loan of 2 million, principal plus interest. Within 3 days she was in the middle of playing a bedroom game with Meng Jianian when she received the text message. Stunned by the words, she couldn't believe her eyes. However, debt collection calls kept coming one after another, and even her parents received them, asking what was going on. What's going on? When did I ever take out an online loan? Are you sure you have the right person? However, the other party directly sent over her ID card and the transfer information for the 600,000 yuan text. Student G, we know your school, home address, and information about your friends and relatives. Just return the money honestly, and nothing will happen. Otherwise, don't blame us for destroying you. People should pay for their premature indulgence, shouldn't they? 6. I was getting a spa at the villa when I got the call from GCC. It was almost 11 p.m. and I was about to go to bed. I answered the phone as soon as I heard it ring, and the shrill scream that came through nearly pierced my eardrum. Song Chiao, are you fucking insane? How dare you take out a 600,000 yuan online loan? Are you trying to get yourself killed? I scratched my ear with one hand, nearly bursting into laughter. Truly, my carefully selected online lending platform must have driven GCC completely mad by now. What online loan? I don't understand what you're talking about. And even if I did take out an online loan, what does it have to do with you? Why are you so worked up about it? I murmured softly, then decisively hung up the phone. At 8 the next morning, I entered the classroom as usual and took a seat. I had just taken my seat when the girl next to me suddenly let out a shriek. With a look of utter disgust, she quickly gathered her things and stood up. Get away from me, you're disgusting, she said loudly, swiftly grabbing her backpack and moving to a seat in the back. My drowsiness from just waking up vanished instantly, and murmurs began to ripple through the surrounding crowd. It's true what they say, when people get desperate enough, they'll go down a dark path. I can't believe she'd stoop to something like this. It's absolutely disgusting. She's a total disgrace to our college. The principal should expel her immediately and stop her from poisoning the campus atmosphere. Her parents must be heartbroken. After all their sacrifices to put her through school, she ends up doing something like this, throwing away her dignity just for money. No wonder Meng Jianian can't stand her. He probably knew she was being kept by someone all along. I heard that last sentence loud and clear, and immediately slammed the table as I stood up. What the hell are you all talking about? If you have the guts, say it to my face and make it clear. As soon as my words fell, a phone was thrown right in front of me. Song Chiao, you're the one who doesn't know how to accept a favor gracefully. We're already showing you respect by not pointing fingers in your face. The humiliation you're facing now is entirely of your own making. I glanced at my phone screen, and the word hot from a campus forum immediately caught my eye. Sensational headline, local student allegedly being maintained by wealthy man, living in luxury mansion as his mistress. The accompanying images are several photos of me arriving at my villa, stepping out of a luxury car. Each image cleverly pixelates half of my face, but anyone with eyes can recognize it's me. Post content, there's a financially struggling student at our school who has been relying on her roommate's support to get by. However, she spends lavishly, taking advantage of others' kindness for high-end consumption. After being exposed, her roommate stopped the support, holding a grudge. She then attached herself to an older man, earning money through physical means, only to turn around and subject her former roommate to various insults, attacks, and deliberate retaliation. It's truly appalling. Since last night, the comment section has already piled up hundreds of replies. Holy crap, isn't this the living, breathing story of the farmer and the viper? Some people, if you help them once but not for a lifetime, will resent you for it. This is so disgusting. Why does the girl in the photo look so familiar? She looks like Song Chiao from our department, and the information matches up too. No wonder she dresses up so meticulously every day. Turns out she's being kept. She really treats finding a man as her second chance at life. Damn, I wish she'd just drop dead. I've had it with her for a long time. If I ever see that kind of trash corrupting the school's atmosphere, I'll send her straight to hell. TSK. This is the modern female college student for you. Can't say the allure of a mansion isn't strong. She doesn't even mind the old man's musty smell. How disgusting. I slammed my hand on the table and said sternly, these are nothing but malicious slander and defamation. I'm calling the police right now to clear my name, I said, and was about to dial the emergency number. But GCC stepped forward and stopped me. Chiao, we all know about your status as a financially disadvantaged student, yet, in these photos, you're clearly living in a luxury mansion and riding in high-end cars. Don't you have anything to explain to everyone? We're just raising reasonable questions. If we've wronged you, you can simply prove your innocence. We're all classmates, there's no need to escalate things like this and involve the police. I'm looking at her face right now and I want to tear her apart. I haven't stolen or robbed anything. Why should I explain myself to you? Who do you think you are? Meng Jianyan also stepped forward, still looking at me with that same disdainful and contemptuous expression. Song Chaoqiao, you really should reflect on yourself. Why is it that I just can't stand you? People like you, selfish, despicable, and utterly lacking in manners, make me feel sick just by looking at you. Why don't you take a whiff of that cheap stench you're giving off from head to toe? What else could it be besides being a kept woman? If you're so capable, show us your bank balance and prove it. I'll prove you wrong. I picked up a stack of books and slammed them hard onto him. I understand they're completely cornered now, forced to use this method to compel me to prove my identity. If I were to prove my identity, it would inevitably lead to my parents transferring money to me, thereby resolving their crisis. Watching Meng Jianyan's expression suddenly turn cold, I clapped my hands and said with a smile, since things have come to this point, I won't hide it from everyone any longer. I will now prove my true identity to all of you. 7. I picked up my phone and dialed my dad's number. Hey dad, I need some money for something. Could you transfer 30 million over to me? Yeah, I'm fine, love you, dad. The classmates around them burst into laughter upon hearing this. Come on, Song Chaoqiao, are you out of your mind? Do you even realize what 30 million means? You've really been reading too many novels. Do you think you're some kind of domineering CEO's family? You're not actually calling that old man, are you? You think you're worth 30 million? I doubt you'd even fetch 100,000 if we sold you off to harvest your kidneys and eyeballs in northern Myanmar. Only GCC, standing to the side, widened her eyes in sheer excitement, her shoulders trembling uncontrollably. She clutched her phone desperately, as if trying to shove her head right through the screen, but the sudden wealth she had anticipated never arrived. Instead, a wave of astonished screams erupted from the classmates gathered around me. 1 2 3 4 5, that's a full 7 zeros. Am I seeing this right? Oh my god, I think I'm going to faint. I've never seen so much money in my entire life. Come on, Song Chaoqiao, you're serious? Are you really a rich heiress? Then why didn't you admit it before? On the other side, GCC stood motionless, staring at her phone, her pupils trembling as if petrified. Meng Jianyan glanced at it and anxiously pushed through to snatch my phone away. When he saw the 30 million balance displayed on the screen, he was instantly stunned, taking 2 steps back in disbelief and steadying himself against the table. My name is Song Chaoqiao, and my father is Song Yuchong. You can look it up online to see how many companies are registered under his name, or you can call his company to verify my identity. This amount of money is nothing to our Song group. I deliberately kept a low profile before to avoid unnecessary trouble, but I never expected it would cause such a big misunderstanding, I said with a smile, walking step by step toward GCC, staring intently into her eyes. Now it's your turn, my dear roommate. Didn't you keep claiming to be a wealthy heiress? Well, show us your account balance and transfer records then. Only then did she snap back to reality, abruptly turning away to frantically stuff her phone into her pocket, but because her movement was too forceful, the phone slipped and fell to the ground, just as a boy rushed over and picked it up. Holy crap, GCC, this is a debt collection message. Did you take out an online loan? The boy shouted at the top of his lungs as if he had discovered a new continent. Not possible. 600,000 in online loans. GCC. All those things you did before were just an act. You're the one who's materialistic and vain, pretending to be a poor student. The students erupted in excitement instantly, everyone rushing over to snatch her phone despite any attempts to stop them. What they saw next was beyond shocking. GCC's parents often complained to her, and messages urging her to work to pay for her brother's tuition were also revealed. Her parents only give her 300 yuan for living expenses each month, never failing to remind her, your roommate surnamed Song is quite wealthy, isn't she? Build a good relationship with her and ask for her help, maybe borrow some money from her. I've heard there are many wealthy students at university. You should keep an eye out and start dating a rich guy early. Don't wait too long or they'll all be taken. You little brat, what on earth have you been up to outside? Debt collectors have come knocking on our door because of you. You're nothing but trouble. How dare you take out a 600,000 yuan online loan? Why don't you just drop dead, you worthless piece of trash? I never should have given birth to you in the first place. You're completely useless and just keep draining the family's money. If you need money so badly, go sell yourself. Plenty of old men are looking for girls your age these days. We're too scared to even leave the house because of you. So go on, get out there. Let me make this clear. Your brother is the only heir to our family. If you mistreat him in any way, I'll skin you alive. The only reason you were born was to serve your brother. GCC completely broke down, letting out a heart-wrenching scream. She ran toward the door, her entire being descending into a terrifying, mindless state. Finally realizing the system had failed, Meng Jiannian closed his eyes hard in humiliation and walked toward me. Song Qiaoqiao, I have to admit, you finally won. I truly never imagined you'd go this far just to have me. Aren't you just jealous that Cece is with me? And you can't be. Fine. As long as you transfer these 30 million to me, I'm willing to give you a chance. The surrounding noise gradually faded, and a complicated expression crossed my face. Even now, Meng Jiannian still thinks I like him. I admit that during military training, I had a great conversation with him, and it was truly hard not to be moved by that face. No matter how perfect the exterior may be, it cannot conceal a heart filled with sin and greed, compared to the hatred I feel for him now. The faint flutter of affection I once had means nothing at all. Enough. What are you still standing there for? My patience is limited. Meng Jiannian approached me with a chilling demeanor, lowering his head and speaking in a hushed tone. Not only that, but did you know that the driver you fired was my father? Go find him and apologize immediately, then promote him to manager at your company. Only then will I forgive you. Song Qiaoqiao, I'm warning you, even if I'm with you, don't think you can make me do anything for you. My dignity won't be insulted by your lousy money. He spoke with great passion, even moving himself with his own words. He probably sees himself in his own mind as a hero sacrificing for his lover and family at this very moment. I raised my hand and slapped his face hard, forcing it to turn aside. Meng Jiannian, what kind of rotten excuse for a man do you think you are, expecting me to settle for you? Every word from you makes me sick. Get lost. 8. Under my covert instructions, the debt collectors found their residential address the moment the door opened. Faced with so many burly men covered in tattoos, GCC fainted on the spot, while Meng Jiannian was dragged into their car, his fate unknown. The next time I heard about them was when GCC's parents, in order to repay their debts, accepted a bride price and sold her off to an old bachelor as his wife. The content type is narrative translation. And Meng Jiajian had his legs broken by debt collectors and was sold to northern Myanmar, living a life in darkness ever since learning this. I am enjoying pastries made by a French chef while watching a movie in the starlit screening room of the villa. Every gift from fate has its price already marked in the shadows, and the greedy will inevitably pay for their deeds. Story 2. When Shen Yanzhou lost his memory that year, I lied to him and said that I was his girlfriend. Later, we accidentally had a child. He was overjoyed and knelt down on one knee to propose to me, but just when I thought that my secret love finally had a result, he suddenly regained his memory. He blamed me for deceiving him, vowed never to recognize this child, and even had people drag me to have an abortion on the operating table. I died along with our child. When I opened my eyes again, I was still in that same hospital room on the hospital bed. Shen Yanzhou still had his eyes tightly closed. The atmosphere in the room was very oppressive. I remember the doctor saying that if he didn't wake up today, there was a high possibility that he would become a vegetable. Mother Shen sobbed softly, and my mother was comforting her beside her. There's still time, he will definitely wake up. I can't remember the details of when Shen Yanzhou woke up that year very clearly, but my mother was right. He would definitely wake up. My mother turned around and saw me in a daze, and she waved her hand. Nuanyuan, come and talk to Yanzhou, let Aunt Kai take a rest. Hearing this, Mother Shen also looked at me. These were two elders who had doted on me since I was a child. Even after Shen Yanzhou regained his memory, they always firmly stood by my side. But I wanted to refuse, but I couldn't refuse now. Just as I was about to walk to the bedside, Shen Yanzhou's eyelids twitched. I never expected that one day, he would be able to look at me so calmly. In my previous life, after he regained his memory, the way he looked at me was always full of all kinds of malice. We never had a good meal together or said a word to each other again. He blamed me for being scheming and vowed never to recognize the child in my belly. I knew I was in the wrong, so I accepted all these accusations. But why did he change his mind later? Why did he try to kill our child that was his own child too? The intense emotions inside me made it impossible for me to stay calm. I averted my eyes and subconsciously stepped back. Mother Shen rushed forward excitedly. Before long, Father Shen and my father also rushed to the hospital. Shen Yanzhou waking up was great news for them. However, he had lost his memory. After crying, Mother Shen began to introduce everyone to him one by one. Yanzhou, they are Uncle Lin and Aunt Bai. Our two families have been friends for generations. This is Nuanyuan, Uncle Lin's daughter, and she is also your. When it came to me, I suddenly came to my senses and blurted out, sister. This was a subconscious reaction. I hadn't forgotten that in my previous life, Mother Shen had made the final decision. At this moment, She introduced me to Shinyenjo as his girlfriend, but in fact, Shinyenjo already had a girlfriend. However, in Mother Shin's eyes, his girlfriend, Su Shinlan, was mostly responsible for his car accident. This time it was said that a few days before the car accident, Su Shinlan had proposed to get engaged. Shinyenjo didn't agree. In a fit of anger, Su Shinlan broke up with him and was going to run abroad. Shinyenjo had the accident on his way to the airport. Mother Shin didn't like Su Shinlan much from the beginning, and now her prejudice against her was even deeper. She told me that by taking advantage of Shinyenjo's memory loss, we could cultivate our relationship. Sometimes I thought that even the elders of the two families could see that I liked Shinyenjo. Did he really not know? No, he should have known. It's just that he still regarded my feelings for him as the kind of love a younger sister has for an older brother. When we were children in my previous life, Mother Shin's proposal made my heart race. What made me even more unable to extricate myself was that Shinyenjo accepted it easily. In the end, during the time he was recovering in the hospital, he only wanted me to take care of him personally. We started with a lie, but it ended when he regained his memory. He believed that I was a habitual liar and even thought that the arrival of the child was my premeditated plan. No matter how I explained, he didn't believe that that night was really an accident. I had no credibility left in his eyes. It's just that, Shinyenjo, you were cruel to me. And you were also cruel to your own child. I touched my flat belly, and my heart ached as if stabbed by a knife. That child didn't even have a chance to grow up a little bit before he was gone. It was my fault. So if I had a chance to do it all over again, how could I let myself make the same mistake? After being surprised for a moment, Mother Shin followed my words and said, yes, you two grew up together since childhood. You are closer than real siblings. The elders talked about the interesting things in the past and were very excited. Only Shinyenjo was silently staring at me with his deep black eyes. The doctor soon came to do a full-body examination for him, and I found an excuse to leave. Even after walking out of the hospital gate, I still felt that all this was like a dream, but I couldn't tell whether being reborn was a dream or the love-hate entanglement with Shinyenjo was a dream. When my head was about to explode from thinking, my phone rang. When I saw the caller ID, I was stunned for a long time before answering the phone. On the phone, Chinshuha's voice was very urgent. Nuanyuan, where are you? Chinshuha, you, why are you calling me at this time? Chinshuha was my desk mate in high school and once pretended to be my boyfriend. After learning that Shinyenjo had a girlfriend, I didn't want to be outdone and told him that I was also in a relationship. Shinyenjo was stunned for a moment at that time, but then he quickly smiled. He rubbed the top of my head, not very gently, and said, you're really something, little girl, you've grown up. His tone was so old-fashioned, even though he wasn't much older than me. 2 days later, he asked me to bring my boyfriend out for a meal together. I couldn't think of anyone else at the moment, so I asked Chinshuha for help. At the dinner table, Chinshuha was very considerate and took good care of me. Shinyenjo even made fun of himself at that time. He knows how to take care of you better than I do. However, after the meal, he asked me again, I can tell that he likes you, but I can't tell that you like him. After hearing this, my heart felt sour and astringent because, of course, I didn't like Chinshuha. I didn't take Shinyenjo's words to heart either. Before long, Chinshuha really confessed his love to me. Although I rejected him in the end, he still insisted on continuing to be good friends with me. It was only after Shinyenjo regained his memory and despised me that Chinshuha expressed his feelings to me again. But at that time, I was already pregnant and physically and mentally exhausted, and I simply didn't have the energy to care about anything else. And then, I died. Don't ask so many questions. I want to see you. I want to see you right now. Tell me where you are quickly. Pulled back from my memories, my mind froze for a moment because at this time, Chinshuha should have just been rejected by me not long ago and gone on a business trip to another place. After hanging up the phone, an incredible idea filled my mind. Since I can be reborn, could it be that Chinshuha can be reborn too? After all, only the later him would call me Nuanyuan. Before that, he always called me Lin Xianwan. Soon, my guess was confirmed. Chinshuha didn't make me wait for too long. As soon as he got out of the car, he ran towards me and gave me a very tight hug, and the surprised and excited expression on his face could only be understood by me. Sorry, I'm too excited. I had a terrible dream. In the dream, you bled a lot. I was trapped between his hands and slowly lowered my eyes. Both Chinshuha and I were reborn, but I didn't want to recall those painful things anymore. It's just a dream. Don't make a big deal out of it, I said with a relaxed smile. Chinshuha looked at me steadily for a while and then smiled too. There was a determined light shining in his eyes, which was completely different from his dejected appearance when he was just rejected by me in the previous life. You're right, but this dream made me realize that I can only feel at ease if I accompany you personally. Nuanyuan, I'm not in a hurry, so don't be in a hurry to reject me, okay? I was burned by the eagerness in his eyes and subconsciously broke free from him just as I didn't know what to say. A familiar and cold voice sounded behind me. No, it was Shinyenjo. He was helped by his assistant and walked over, his eyes never leaving me. This look was very complicated. There was unfamiliarity, dependence, tenderness, and a little bit of grievance, but what was he feeling wronged about? Shinyenjo. You. After being surprised, Chinshuha stared at Shinyenjo very warily. However, Shinyenjo didn't look at him, and what he said next really surprised me. Although I've lost my memory for now, it doesn't mean that I won't remember it again. At first, I didn't believe what my mother said, but just now, I believe it. He suddenly became humble. Nuanyuan, I'm sorry. I've temporarily forgotten that I like you very much, but before I remember it, please don't consider other people, okay? I didn't know what Shinyenjo was up to in the tense confrontation between him and Chinshuha. I fled in a hurry. I fled back to my single apartment. 2 days later, my mother came to my place to drag me out. After you left that day, Aunt Kai told Yenjo that you were the person he liked and that he was chasing you. But what happened? He lost his memory, so you're angry with him. But now that you've been angry for long enough, come with me to the hospital and see him. If the person being slandered wasn't me, I really wanted to applaud Aunt Kai's ability to make up stories. No wonder Shinyenjo suddenly went crazy that day. But if I had a chance to do it all over again, why was he still so easily deceived by a different lie? 2 days were enough for me to sort out my past and present lives. I believe that his original intention wasn't to take my life. It was me who was wishful thinking and like a moth to a flame. He just didn't love me. I couldn't change the relationship between the two families, nor could I change other people, so I could only change myself. I used my work at the art studio to prevaricate my mother. She turned around and looked at me in confusion. When Yenjo first had the accident, you were really worried. Why are you making excuses now even for a simple visit? Did you two have a fight? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mom, he's someone who doesn't remember anything. What would I fight with him about? I really have something to do. Besides, he's okay now, isn't he? Some truths were destined to be known only to myself. Even if my mother knew me very well, she would never have imagined that I was reborn. It was easy to deal with my mother, but it wasn't easy to prevaricate Chinshuha. Fortunately, I didn't plan to hide it from him all the time in my previous life. After Chinshuha came back from his business trip, Shinyenjo and I were already together. He didn't comment on my choice and even tried to wake me up and tell me not to deceive myself anymore. But at that time, Shinyenjo, who had lost his memory, had me in his heart and eyes, and I was already immersed in it. With the support of the elders, I was willing to take a gamble. It's just that the ending was not satisfactory. I wasn't surprised that Chinshuha would come to the art studio. After a few days, he saw a different plot development from the previous life. Even the slowest person should have an answer in his heart. Nuanyuan, are you meeting his complicated gaze? I poured him a cup of tea and then nodded, neither too lightly nor too heavily. He stood up suddenly, his face full of shock, his lips were trembling, and he seemed to have a lot to say, but in the end, he just asked me in a low voice, then, do you still love him? Shinyenjo. I lowered my eyes and smiled bitterly. I love my own life. Only after losing it did I truly understand what was the most important. I couldn't even protect my own life, let alone the child in my belly. Thinking of the child, I still couldn't help asking, did I really die on the operating table later? Did Shinyenjo show up? And my parents? If my parents knew that Shinyenjo sent people to drag me to have an abortion, which led to my death, how heartbroken they would be. Perhaps after he regained his memory, I shouldn't have tried to fight for it. I was too willful. I closed my eyes tightly and didn't notice the sudden paleness of Chinshua's face. I don't know either. I felt inexplicably flustered that day. When I found you, something had already happened to you. Then, in the blink of an eye, I was back here again. Chinshuha stared at me closely, his tone a little excited. Nuanyuan, this time, don't get involved with him again. This way, you won't have a child either, and you'll still be you. Sooner or later, he will regain his memory, and his girlfriend will come back. Then, I know. I interrupted him lightly. I didn't want to talk about the past anymore. But the memories suddenly came flooding back like a dam breaking. That day, Shinyenjo's face was already unpleasant, but I was still immersed in the fantasy of the wedding. I excitedly held a stack of wedding magazines and brought them to him. With a wave of his hand, he knocked all the magazines to the ground. He said that I made him feel sick. The next day, he flew to the other side of the ocean and brought Su Xinlan back. I covered my face with both hands. I really didn't want to recall it anymore. After Chinshuha left, I sat there for a long time until a pot of tea was completely cold. Then, Shinyenjo came. The moment I saw him, I remembered that today seemed to be the day he was discharged from the hospital accompanied by his assistant. He walked around the art studio as if inspecting it. He didn't make any sound. I gathered my thoughts and was about to ask him why he came. But he suddenly turned around, his tone was sarcastic, and said that you were so busy that you didn't have time to accompany me out of the hospital, but you have the leisure to drink tea and chat with other men. He emphasized the last few words particularly strongly. So, he had been outside for a long time. I subconsciously frowned. I didn't say I would go in the first place, but I wanted you to come, me, even though the time we spent together that was obtained through deception wasn't long. It was still deeply engraved in my heart. This was Shin Yanzhou after losing his memory. In front of me, he didn't have the aura of the president of the Shin Corporation, and he lacked the dignity and pressure of a superior. There was still a bit of the spirit of his youth on his handsome face. He was a proud and arrogant man. Unfortunately, later reality gave me a hard slap in the face. What was false was false. I clenched my fists. Shin Yanzhou, your mother lied to you. I'm not the person you like. We just knew each other since childhood, and we're not familiar with each other. Shin Yanzhou suddenly fell silent, staring at me with his dark peach blossom eyes. You're still angry, me, Nuanyuan, no one can deceive me. That day at the main entrance, I saw that man put his arm around your shoulder. At that moment, I believed what my mother said, and just now, you were making tea and chatting with him. I was really depressed. We grew up together. How could we not be familiar with each other? If I hadn't experienced the deep pain and paid a heavy price, I really couldn't resist this. Shin Yanzhou. I took out my phone and found the selfie of Su Xinlan. In her WeChat moments, take a good look. She, Su Xinlan, is your girlfriend, the person you like. Shin Yanzhou glanced casually. I've seen it. I don't have any feelings for her. Not sure. Let me take another look. I've seen it clearly. She's not as good looking as you. Me, this is not good. The after effects of this lie seem to be even more serious. Shin Yanzhou began to come to my art studio every now and then, and I couldn't drive him away. I gritted my teeth in anger. I sneered at him, saying that he had never been so obedient to Mother Shin before. He explained seriously, I'm not listening to anyone, I'm believing in my own heart. After a pause, he softened his voice. I want to see you. I like looking at you. I never realized before that he was quite eloquent. After all, in my previous life, every day after we were together, I was happy and didn't hide my love for him at all. Most of the time, I was the one who said the sweet words, and he just echoed me. But what was the result? After he regained his memory, he completely denied everything and only remembered that I had deceived him. Thinking of this, I smiled coldly. But I don't want to see you. You don't need to look at me. Just paint your painting and focus on it. However, after giving him the cold shoulder for a few days, he couldn't hold back anymore and asked me why I was so cold to him. I borrowed the words he said when he looked at Su Xinlan's photo before, because I don't have any feelings for you. This sentence was still quite powerful. Shin Yanzhou didn't come for several days. I couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. There are some people you just can't see. Otherwise, I don't know what kind of mood I should use to face them. His sincere and innocent eyes now will only make me feel schizophrenic. I remind myself all the time, everything that happened in the previous life was not a nightmare, but real. Lin Wan, you have to be sober. Unfortunately, the peaceful days didn't last for a few days. Shin Yanzhou came again, this time, almost as soon as he came in. Chen Shuha also arrived. Why is he here? The look in Chen Shuha's eyes as he looked at me was full of disbelief and accusation. I couldn't help but frown. Before, Shin Yanzhou usually came in the morning, and Chen Shuha came in the evening. They never met each other at all. But today, I don't know what happened, they just happened to come at the same time. I understood what Chen Shuha meant. He didn't want me to have any more involvement with Shin Yanzhou, but I also didn't like his tone. Why can't I be here? At this moment, the hostility in Shin Yanzhou's eyes was no less than that in Chen Shuha's. His thin lips were slightly pursed, and his black eyes were deep, making it impossible to see his emotions. Chen Shuha narrowed his eyes and was equally unwilling to show weakness, because she doesn't like it. This was directly pointing the finger at me. Shin Yanzhou looked at me rather hurt, but quickly turned away. If she doesn't like me, does that mean she likes you? Then, two pairs of eyes looked at me at the same time. Very well. I took a deep breath and said coldly, I don't like either of you. When Shin Yanzhou heard this, he immediately raised his chin proudly. What was he so proud of? I couldn't even look at him. I sat back in the art studio and started painting again, not planning to pay attention to them. However, the more I deliberately tried to ignore them, the more I couldn't. Moreover, both of their voices were quite loud. Shin Yanzhou, I don't care what you're up to. Anyway, don't come to harass Nuanyuan again. On what grounds are you saying this to me? According to my investigation, you two have already broken up. An ex should act like an ex. Chen Shua's voice sounded very angry. That's a matter between us two. It has nothing to do with you, Shen Yanzhou casually retorted. Then the matter between me and her doesn't require you to butt in either. Do you know how you lost your memory? It was for another woman. Now that you're pestering Nuanyuan, what will you do when you regain your memory one day? It's none of your business. I know what I'm doing. Even if I regain my memory one day, I will only recognize Lin Yuan. He said he would only recognize me. My hand trembled, and I ruined a painting. This should be the most ridiculous thing I've heard outside. Chen Shuha laughed out loud. You can't do it. You can't do it. Seriously, don't come to her again, otherwise you'll only hurt her. I suddenly stood up from the chair and walked out of the art studio. Chen Shuha. I was afraid that he would say too much, but Shen Yanzhou wouldn't let go of this issue. Chen Shua's eyes were a little distracted, and he said softly and melancholically, in my dream, you hurt Nuanyuan terribly. She bled a lot. The floor was covered with blood. Shen Yanzhou frowned as he listened, and then he counterattacked without mercy. Same here. I also had a dream, and the culprit was you. Me. What kind of childish argument was this? Even if someone had an elementary school education, they wouldn't be like this. Just as I was about to open my mouth and tell them to get out, Chen Shuha suddenly roared, you're talking nonsense. He pounced on Shen Yanzhou and threw a punch directly. The cheekbone where Shen Yanzhou was hit immediately turned red, and he quickly counterattacked with a punch. The two of them quickly started fighting. I was stunned. Only when my throat was almost hoarse from shouting did they stop. Shen Yanzhou was still sitting on the ground, looking rather embarrassed. He said pitifully, I sprained my ankle and can't get up. Hee. Did he expect me to help him up? That was impossible. Call your assistant. After giving him an angry look, I said to Chen Shuha, you can leave first. Chen Shuha also had some scratches on his face, but they didn't look serious. Mainly, I was tired of both of them and didn't want to see them anymore. Before Chen Shuha left, his eyes were extremely hurt. Nuanyuan, you still favor him. I wanted to say that I didn't, but he kept muttering those words. You still can't forget him. You clearly know the ending but still take his side. You'll regret it. You'll regret it. I simply shut up and went back to the art studio. I didn't want to say a word. I don't know when Shen Yanzhou left. I also don't know what he told his family when he went back. Anyway, that night, I was called back by my mother. The meal was peaceful, but after the meal, she pulled me into the room. She took out an album. It was an album that I had personally organized in the past, a special album of Shen Yanzhou and me. Did I misunderstand? Shanwan, you don't like Yanzhou anymore? This was a question I had to face sooner or later. Fortunately, I had already thought of a way to deal with it. Yeah, I don't like him anymore. My mother was still a bit surprised to hear me admit it with her own ears. Can you tell me why? Yanzhou is very serious about you now. He even came to see your father. And me, Mom, I interrupted her gently and said indifferently, the reason is very simple. I've thought it through. He should like Su Xinlan very much, otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed to the airport to chase after her. Although he has lost his memory now, it's said that people who lose their memory change their personalities greatly. We can't believe him. I think you should persuade Aunt Kai. Sooner or later, he will regain his memory. It's better for Aunt Kai to think it through and except Miss Su. My mother was easily persuaded by me. And she also thought that Shen Yanzhou, who had lost his memory, was unreliable. That's right, he's not only unreliable now, but also very troublesome. Shen Yanzhou used the excuse of being beaten up in my place and came to the art studio to make tea every now and then. Sometimes I wondered, why did he become so shameless after losing his memory? I can't even scold him away. Also, why wasn't he reborn if he came back to life and remembered everything in the past? I wouldn't have to suffer like this. That's right. If he regained his memory, he wouldn't bother me anymore. After thinking it over and over again, I decided to contact Su Xinlan, but unexpectedly, Chen Shuha contacted her before me. Nuanyuan, I don't want you to be hurt by Shen Yanzhou again. I know you're in a dilemma. After all, he's not the same person as he will be in the future. I also know that that woman Su Xinlan bullied you. After Shen Yanzhou regains his memory, I will make them pay for what they've done. Looking at Chen Shuha, who was a bit crazy, I calmly shook my head. Shuha, I'm very grateful to you, both in the previous life and in this life. My blessings for you are still the same, and what I want to say is still the same. You don't need to waste your time on me anymore. Having a second chance, I've thought it through clearly. I'm not here to take revenge on anyone. There's a cause and effect. The cause is myself, so you don't have to worry that I will make the same mistake again. I won't. I refused Chen Shua's participation, which was also a way to say goodbye to my past self. When Su Xinlan learned that Shen Yanzhou had lost his memory, she burst into tears on the phone. I knew it. I knew he didn't mean not to come to me on purpose. She also thanked me until I told her that Shin Yenjo now mistakenly thought that the person he liked was me. Su Xinlan's face changed greatly, and she questioned me about what I had done to Shin Yenjo, but in fact, this time, I didn't do anything because I became the person Shin Yenjo liked now. Su Xinlan still held a grudge against me. To be honest, I really wanted to stay as far away from them as possible. In my previous life, after Shin Yenjo brought Su Xinlan back, they officially announced their reunion in a high-profile way in the circle. They were the right people for each other, and I was the despicable and shameless person who took advantage of others' misfortunes. Su Xinlan brought her sisters to the art studio more than once to mock and ridicule me. The last time, Mother Shin helped me out of the situation since Mother Shin didn't approve of her. She said publicly, that was because she took into account the child in my belly. In short, what she said was very unpleasant and I, who wasn't loved, didn't have the right to refute at all. Su Xinlan undoubtedly had some tricks, but I didn't expect that this time, her return had no effect on Shin Yenjo at all. In my limited knowledge, the love of a lover had the opportunity to awaken past memories. That's how it's shown on TV. However, in Shin Yenjo's case, something unexpected happened. He was completely indifferent to Su Xinlan's appearance, let alone giving her any chance to get close to him. It was said that Shin Yenjo directly drove her out of the Shin Corporation building, leaving Su Xinlan crying and shouting in anger in front of the building. This was men, whether they love or don't love, they are so decisive. Su Xinlan couldn't do anything about it and had to reluctantly ask me for help. I didn't hesitate at all. After sending her the location of the art studio, I closed the door. When I went out again, I heard Shin Yenjo's cold and heartless voice, 5 million yuan or calling the police. Which one do you choose? Yenjo, Miss Su, I've lost my memory, not my mind. I can't find any traces of loving you in my past life. Before I could figure out the meaning of this sentence, Su Xinlan made a decision. I choose 5 million yuan. Su Xinlan left, and Shin Yenjo didn't even give her a glance. Didn't love Su Xinlan. How could that be possible? The man's deep eyes suddenly looked at me, filled with emotions I couldn't understand. When I came to my senses, he was already standing in front of me. Do you really not want to see me that much? Did he know? Probably intimidated by the strong emotions in his voice, I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. The silence continued, and Shin Yenjo just blocked my way. I clenched my fists tightly. When I opened my mouth, my throat was a bit hoarse. Excuse me, I want to go out. Shin Yenjo still didn't move. I had to turn around and go back to the art studio. Behind me, the man's hoarse voice was filled with unwillingness and confusion. Nuanyuan, what exactly happened that made us become like this? Are you hiding something from me? And you, and that Chen Shuha, what does he know? Shin Yenjo left again. I thought he wouldn't come again this time because I asked him. I also have 5 million yuan. Do you choose it? He didn't want to see Su Xinlan. I didn't want to see him either. My life returned to peace again. Without discussing it with my family, I applied to a foreign school. Before the result came out, the art studio continued to operate in a semi-public welfare form. More and more children from the surrounding residential areas came to learn painting. Looking at their innocent and lovely faces and listening to their clear and happy voices, I became busier and busier. Shin Yenjo, Su Xinlan, their contact information lay quietly in my friend list. I didn't know how long I had to scroll down to find the chat window, and under my deliberate ignoring, Chen Shua's messages became fewer and fewer. I knew saying goodbye to the past also meant saying goodbye to the people in the past. I liked this kind of busyness. If it weren't for the birthday red packet my mother sent me in advance, I would have almost forgotten this day, the night when Shin Yenjo and I accidentally got pregnant. At this time in my previous life, the new bar opened by Chen Shuha started to operate, and he wanted to hold a simple birthday party for me. I refused because at that time, Shin Yenjo was my boyfriend. However, to celebrate the opening of his bar, I suggested having my birthday in the bar just to add some popularity to the bar. I thought you were still angry. Me, Nuanyuan, no one can deceive me. That day at the main gate, I saw that man put his arm around your shoulder. At that moment, I believed what my mother said, and just now, you were making tea and chatting with him. It made me feel really annoyed. We've known each other since we were kids. How could we not be familiar? If I hadn't experienced the intense pain and paid such a heavy price, I really wouldn't have been able to resist this. Shin Yenjo. I took out my phone and found this selfie of Su Xinlan in her moments. Take a good look. She, Su Xinlan, is your girlfriend. The person you like. Shin Yenjo glanced casually and said, I've seen it. I don't have any feelings for her. Not sure. Let me take another look. I've seen clearly. She's not as pretty as you. Me, this is not good. The after effects of this lie seem to be even more serious. Shin Yenjo started coming to my art studio every now and then, and I couldn't drive him away no matter what. I gritted my teeth in anger. I sneered at him, saying that he had never been so obedient to Aunt Shin before. He seriously defended himself. I'm not listening to anyone, I'm just following my own heart. After a pause, he softened his voice. I want to see you. I like looking at you. I never realized before that he could be so eloquent. After all, in my previous life, every day after we were together, I was full of joy and didn't hide my love for him at all. Most of the time, I was the one saying the sweet words, and he would just go along with them. But what was the result after he regained his memory? He completely denied everything and only remembered that I had deceived him. Thinking of this, I gave a cold laugh. But I don't want to see you. You don't need to look at me. Just focus on your painting. After losing his memory, he became even more thick-skinned. However, after giving him the cold shoulder for a few days, he couldn't hold back anymore and asked me why I was being so cold to him. I borrowed the words he said when he looked at Su Xinlan's photo before. Because I have no feelings for you. This sentence was quite powerful. Shinyenjo didn't come for several days. I couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. There are some people you just can't see. Otherwise, I don't know what kind of mood I should use to face them. His sincere and innocent eyes now would only make me feel torn. I keep reminding myself all the time, everything that happened in the previous life was not a nightmare, but a reality. Lin Yuan, you have to be clear-headed. Unfortunately, the peaceful days didn't last long. Shinyenjo came again. This time, almost as soon as he came in, Chen Shuhe also arrived. Why is he here? The look in Chen Shuhe's eyes when he looked at me was full of disbelief and accusation. I couldn't help but frown. Before, Shinyenjo usually came in the morning, and Chen Shuhe came in the evening. They never ran into each other, but today, I don't know what happened. They happened to come at the same time. I understood what Chen Shuhe meant. He didn't want me to have any more connections with Shinyenjo, but I also didn't like his tone. Why can't I be here? At this moment, the hostility in Shinyenjo's eyes was no less than that in Chen Shuhe's. His thin lips were slightly pursed, and his dark eyes were so deep that it was hard to see his emotions. Chen Shuhe squinted his eyes and was equally unwilling to show weakness, because she doesn't like it. This was directly pointing the finger at me. Shinyenjo looked at me with a rather hurt expression, but quickly turned away. If she doesn't like me, does that mean she likes you? Then, two pairs of eyes stared at me simultaneously. Very well. I took a deep breath and said coldly, I don't like either of you. When Shinyenjo heard this, he immediately raised his chin triumphantly. What was he so proud of? I couldn't even bear to look at him. I sat back in the art studio and started painting again, not intending to pay attention to them. However, the more I deliberately tried to ignore them, the more I couldn't. Moreover, both of them were speaking quite loudly. Shinyenjo, I don't care what you're up to. Anyway, don't come to harass Nuanyuan anymore. On what grounds are you saying this to me? According to my investigation, you two have already broken up. An ex should act like an ex. Chen Shua's voice sounded very angry. That's a matter between us. It has nothing to do with you. Shinyenjo casually retorted. Then the matter between me and her doesn't need you to interfere either. Do you know how you lost your memory? It was because of another woman. Now that you're pestering Nuanyuan, what will you do when you regain your memory one day? It's none of your business. I know what I'm doing. Even if I regain my memory one day, I will only recognize Lin Yuan. He said he would only recognize me. My hand trembled, and I ruined a painting. This must be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Outside, Chen Shuhe laughed loudly. You can't do it. You can't do it. Seriously, don't come to her again, otherwise you'll only hurt her. I suddenly stood up from the chair and walked out of the art studio. Chen Shuhe, I was afraid he would say too much, but Shinyenjo wouldn't let go of this issue. Chen Shuhe's eyes were a bit unfocused, and he said softly, in my dream, you hurt Nuanyuan terribly. She bled a lot, and the floor was covered with blood. Shinyenjo frowned as he listened, and then he counterattacked without mercy. Same here. I also had a dream, and the culprit was you. Me? What kind of childish argument was this? Even someone with an elementary school education wouldn't be like this. Just as I was about to open my mouth and tell them to get out, Chen Shuhe suddenly roared, you're talking nonsense. He pounced on Shinyenjo and threw a punch directly. The cheekbone where Shinyenjo was hit immediately turned red, and he quickly counterattacked with a punch. The two of them quickly got into a fight. I was stunned. Only when my throat was almost hoarse from shouting did they stop. Shinyenjo was still sitting on the ground, looking rather embarrassed. He said pitifully, I sprained my ankle and can't get up. Hee. Did he expect me to help him up? That was impossible. Call your assistant. After giving him an angry look, I said to Chen Shuhe, you can leave first. Chen Shuhe also had some scratches on his face, but they didn't look serious. Mainly, I was really tired of both of them and didn't want to see them anymore. Before Chen Shuhe left, his eyes were filled with deep Hurt, Nguyen, you still take his side. I wanted to say that I didn't. But he kept muttering those words. You still can't forget him, you clearly know the ending but still favor him, you'll regret it, you'll regret it. I simply shut up and went back to the art studio. I didn't want to say a word. I don't know when Shin Yenjo left. I also don't know what he told his family when he got back. Anyway, that night, I was called back by my mother. The meal was uneventful, but after the meal, she pulled me into the room. She took out an album. It was an album that I had personally organized in the past, a special album of Shin Yenjo and me. Did I misunderstand? Shanwon, you don't like Yenjo anymore? This was a question I had to face sooner or later. Fortunately, I had already thought of a way to deal with it. Yeah, I don't like him anymore. My mother was still a bit surprised to hear me admit it with her own ears. Can you tell me why? Yenjo is really serious about you now. He even came to see your father and me. Mom, I interrupted her gently and said indifferently, the reason is very simple. I've thought it through. He should like Su Xinlan very much, otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed to the airport to chase after her. Although he has lost his memory now, it's said that people who lose their memory change a lot. We can't trust him. I think you should persuade Aunt Kai. Sooner or later, he will regain his memory. It's better for Aunt Kai to accept Miss Su. My mother was easily convinced by me, and she also thought that Shin Yenjo, who had lost his memory, was unreliable. That's right, he's not only unreliable now, but also very troublesome. Shin Yenjo used the excuse of being beaten up in my place and came to the art studio to make tea every now and then. Sometimes I wondered, why did he become so shameless after losing his memory? I couldn't even scold him away. Also, why wasn't he reborn? If he had been reborn and remembered everything in the past, I wouldn't have to suffer like this. That's right, if he regained his memory, he wouldn't bother me anymore. After thinking it over and over again, I decided to contact Su Xinlan, but unexpectedly, Qin Shuha contacted her before me. Nguyen, I don't want you to be hurt by Shin Yenjo again. I know you're in a difficult situation. After all, he's not the same as he was before. I also know that that woman Su Xinlan bullied you. After Shin Yenjo regains his memory, I will make them pay for what they've done. Looking at Qin Shuha, who seemed a bit crazy, I calmly shook my head. Shuha, I'm really grateful to you, both in the previous life and in this life. My blessings for you remain the same, and what I want to say is also the same. You don't need to waste your time on me anymore. Having a second chance, I've thought it through clearly. I'm not here to take revenge on anyone. There's a cause and effect. The cause was me. So, you don't have to worry that I will make the same mistake again. I won't. I refused Qin Shua's involvement, which was also a way to say goodbye to my past self. When Su Xinlan learned that Shin Yenjo had lost his memory, she burst into tears on the phone. I knew it. I knew he didn't mean not to come to me on purpose. She also thanked me until I told her that Shin Yenjo now mistakenly thought that the person he liked was me. Su Xinlan's face changed drastically, and she questioned me about what I had done to Shin Yenjo, but in fact, this time, I didn't do anything because I became the person Shin Yenjo liked now. Su Xinlan still held a grudge against me. To be honest, I really wanted to stay as far away from them as possible. In my previous life, after Shin Yenjo brought Su Xinlan back, they publicly announced their reunion in a high-profile way in the circle. They were the right people for each other, and I was the despicable and shameless person who took advantage of the situation. Su Xinlan brought her sisters to the art studio more than once to mock and ridicule me. The last time, Aunt Shin helped me out of the situation since Aunt Shin didn't approve of her. She said publicly, that was because of the child in my belly. In short, what she said was really unpleasant, and I, who wasn't loved, didn't have the right to refute it all. Su Xinlan undoubtedly had some tricks up her sleeve, but I didn't expect that this time, her return had no effect on Shin Yenjo at all. In my limited knowledge, the love of a lover could potentially awaken past memories. That's how it's shown on TV. However, in Shin Yenjo's case, something unexpected happened. He was completely indifferent to Su Xinlan's appearance, let alone giving her any chance to get close to him. It was said that Shin Yenjo directly drove her out of the Shin Corporation building, leaving Su Xinlan crying and shouting in anger in front of the building. This was men, whether they love or don't love, they are so decisive. Su Xinlan couldn't do anything about it and had to reluctantly ask me for help. I didn't hesitate at all. After sending her the location of the art studio, I closed the door. When I went out again, I heard Shin Yenjo's cold and heartless voice. 5 million yuan or calling the police. Which one do you choose? Yenjo, Miss Su, I've lost my memory, not my mind. I can't find any traces of loving you in my past life. Before I could figure out the meaning of this sentence, Su Xinlan made a decision. I choose 5 million yuan. Su Xinlan left, and Shin Yenjo didn't even give her a sideways glance didn't love Su Xinlan. How could that be possible? The man's deep eyes suddenly looked at me, filled with emotions I couldn't understand. When I came to my senses, he was already standing in front of me. Do you really not want to see me that much? Did he know? Probably intimidated by the strong emotions in his voice, I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. The silence continued, and Shenyanzhou just blocked my way. I clenched my fists tightly. When I opened my mouth, my throat was a bit hoarse. Excuse me, I want to go out. Shenyanzhou still didn't move. I had to turn around and go back to the art studio behind me. The man's hoarse voice was filled with unwillingness and confusion. Nuanyuan, what exactly happened that made us become like this? Are you hiding something from me? And you, and that Chen Shuhe, what does he know? Shenyanzhou left again. I thought he wouldn't come again this time because I asked him. I also have 5 million yuan. Do you choose it? He didn't want to see Su Xinlan. I didn't want to see him either. My life returned to peace again. Without discussing it with my family, I applied to a foreign school. Before the result came out, the art studio continued to operate in a semi-public welfare form. More and more children from the surrounding residential areas came to learn painting. Looking at their innocent and lovely faces and listening to their clear and happy voices, I became busier and busier. Shenyanzhou, Su Xinlan, their contact information lay quietly in my friend list. I didn't know how long I had to scroll down to find the chat window. And under my deliberate ignoring, Chen Shua's messages became fewer and fewer. I knew saying goodbye to the past also meant saying goodbye to the people in the past. I liked this kind of busyness. If it weren't for the birthday red packet my mother sent me in advance, I would have almost forgotten this day, the night when Shenyanzhou and I accidentally got pregnant. At this time in my previous life, the new bar opened by Chen Shuhe started operating, and he wanted to hold a simple birthday party. For me, I refused because at that time, Shenyanzhou was my boyfriend. However, to celebrate the opening of his bar, I suggested having my birthday in the bar just to add some popularity to the bar, but unexpectedly, something went wrong on the first night. Shenyanzhou drank some contaminated liquor. It was a spatial night this time. Chen Shuhe didn't open a bar, so the same accident would definitely not happen again. Let this day be just like every other day, so ordinary that it couldn't be more ordinary. But in the evening, when I was about to close up, Chen Shuhe came with flowers, liquor, and a cake. What are you standing there for? Aren't you going to help? I'm carrying so many things. I instinctively reached out my hand, but Chen Shuhe avoided it. Just kidding. How could I let the birthday girl do the work today? I felt a bit played, but his unrestrained smile and easygoing tone made me vaguely think of the relaxed and carefree days when we were studying, coupled with his next words, long time no see. It made me feel even more guilty. During this period, I deliberately distanced myself from him. At first, he repeatedly reminded me to remember the lessons of the past, and later, it turned into simple daily greetings. He said he was afraid I would be annoyed by him, so he should type less even if he sent a long message. I didn't like reading it. Chen Shuhe, why do you look like you're about to cry? Have you been bullied? I quickly shook my head, leaned against the wall, and watched him busying around. Then I slowly exhaled. Thank you. Chen Shuhe paused in his actions. After tidying everything up without saying a word, he handed me a glass of wine. Want a drink? Before I could respond, he retracted his hand. This time, he gave me a glass of juice. Chen Shuhe smiled and said, girls shouldn't drink alcohol. It's better to drink this. I raised my eyebrow, didn't take it, and instead reached for the glass of wine. No, I'll drink this today. His eyes lit up instantly, and he smiled as he clinked glasses with me. Then I'll finish this. You can drink as you like. Here's to the new beginning. Come to think of it, this was the first time we had a meal together since we were reborn. Of course, this glass of wine was also the first one I'd had in such a long time, maybe because I hadn't drunk for so long. After finishing one glass, I started to feel a bit tipsy. We hadn't finished chatting about the embarrassing things that happened when we were students. I thanked him for not bringing up those unpleasant matters today. Nuanyuan, what's wrong with you? I could barely hold up my head with one hand. I twitched the corners of my mouth and said, it's okay, I haven't drunk for a long time, and it's going to my head a bit. Chen Shuhe asked with concern, your face is red. Do you want me to help you go and rest? No need, I can't drink anymore. I'll just have some water. Then I'll go and get you some water. He quickly brought a glass of water over, and I reached out my hand. When I took the glass, I accidentally touched his hand. It was cold and felt really comfortable. Nuanyuan, a hand was placed on my face, and it had the same cold feeling as before. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of comfort, but the next second I realized that it was Chen Shuhe's hand. Shuhe, you. Chen Shuhe's face kept getting closer in front of my eyes. In my blurry vision, his expression was so calm and unfamiliar, but his eyes were extremely bright. He was clearly saying words of concern to me, yet his eyes didn't change at all. Your face is really hot, does this feel better, Chinshuha? Please move away for now. I slapped his hand away with some effort and tried to find my phone, but I couldn't. There was anger in Chinshua's voice. Why do you always ask me to go away? Nuanyuan, why is it always me who has to leave? That's not what I mean, I've drunk too much. I want my mom to come and pick me up. You're looking for your phone. Right, Chinshuha asked me. Then, to my shock, I saw him take out my phone from his pocket. He said, I've already turned it off for you, Nuanyuan, tonight. No one will disturb us. Nuanyuan, you have to believe that only I love you, and only I won't leave you. I'm here to help you. What was he talking about? What was he doing? Chinshuha had gone crazy. There's something in the wine. I staggered to my feet, but I had no strength at all and immediately sat back down. Chinshuha hugged me from behind, and his face was pressed against the back of my ear, exhaling a hot breath. Don't be afraid, it won't do you any harm afterwards. I was so scared that tears streamed down my face. Chinshuha, you can't do this. Don't do this. No matter what I said, his hands kept roaming over my body. I closed my eyes in despair. Suddenly, the restraint on my body disappeared. Shinyenjo's furious voice came from behind. Chinshuha, you deserve to die. Shinyenjo pulled Chinshuha out. I held my breath in the art studio and listened to the commotion outside. It was the sound of force hitting the body, one after another, but they didn't have any verbal communication, and I didn't know who was hitting whom. The phone was on the other side of the table. I couldn't reach it. Shinyenjo, Shinyenjo, Shinyenjo. I started calling his name one after another, but I never got a response. My heart dropped straight down at that moment. It felt like a very long time had passed, and finally, Shinyenjo's tall and straight figure appeared in my side. I couldn't help but shed tears. A pair of strong hands picked me up. This embrace was both familiar and strange to me. Shinyenjo, it's me. I want to go home. His voice was extremely deep. Okay. In the end, Shinyenjo didn't take me home because the effect of the medicine completely kicked in on the way. Can you turn the air conditioner to the lowest setting? I'm so hot. It's already at the lowest. It's impossible. You're lying to me. I'm not lying to you. I felt so uncomfortable that I wanted to cry, and I could only keep calling his name, urging him. Shinyenjo, hurry up. Shinyenjo, can you be quicker? Hurry up even more. I really can't stand it anymore. Shinyenjo, please. I don't know what stimulated him, but he directly parked the car in the park we passed by. I was carried from the passenger seat to the back seat and resisted, shrinking inward. During the struggle, my shoe fell off, and he grabbed my foot. Nuanyuan, let me help you first. I shook my head violently. No, you can't, you mustn't. I was crying as I spoke, but I couldn't help hugging him. Stop crying, don't touch me. But you can't stand it, and neither can I. My body was so hot that it felt like it was about to melt. This bone-piercing feeling was both strange and unbearable. I knew I shouldn't continue, but I've never had much self-control. When I was a child, even when I coughed until my face turned red, I still secretly ate a piece of marshmallow. Before an exam, I thought about studying hard, but I still played first. I knew it was wrong to deceive him, but I still couldn't resist being with him. My consciousness gradually faded. Grabbing his hair, I sobbed and said, I can't. I know. After going back and forth like this, when I was finally so tired that I was in a daze, a man's suppressed and hoarse voice rang in my ears. He said, Nuanyuan, I'm sorry. I didn't protect you, and the child well enough. My head seemed to explode with a bang. Shinyenjo was reborn too, and just in time. When I woke up again, I was in Shinyenjo's apartment bed, and he was leaning against the windowsill smoking, remembering everything that happened last night. No matter how embarrassing it was, at least there wouldn't be another child. This was already the best outcome. When he noticed that I was awake, Shinyenjo extinguished the cigarette butt and walked towards me. Nuanyuan, I pulled the quilt up higher, covering most of my face. Please go out first and let me be alone. Based on my understanding of him, he should have listened, but he didn't. It wasn't me, Nuanyuan. It was a sentence without any context, but I seemed to understand what he meant. He said it wasn't him, it was Chinshuha. The child we got unexpectedly was because of Chinshuha's interference on the night of my birthday in the bar. In fact, he prepared 2 glasses of wine for us, but only Shinyenjo drank it, and the person who cruelly killed the child in my belly was also Chinshuha. He believed that I was attached to Shinyenjo because of the child, so he wanted to solve the problem from the root. Shinyenjo said that later. Chinshuha explained that his original intention was never to hurt me. He just didn't expect that the private doctor he found was unreliable. Both me and that child lost our lives because of his self-righteousness. My mind was in a mess, but after experiencing last night, I already believed most of what he said. Don't go to the art studio for a while, you can stay here first. I looked up in confusion. Shinyenjo's handsome face was very serious. Chinshuha has mania. I learned about what happened later from Shinyenjo's assistant. After all, I didn't want to communicate with Shinyenjo directly, so this middleman could only be his special assistant. I knew that Chinshuha had been secretly speculating in stocks. He had been studying it since we were at school. This time around, he remembered those promising stocks from that year, but because he bought and sold at the wrong time, he suffered huge losses. He had no intention of working and borrowed money everywhere, resulting in a huge debt. In the end, his mania turned into bipolar disorder, and he jumped off the rooftop. I'm not sure if Shinyenjo had a hand in it, but even if he did, it was understandable. The words that Chinshuha used to insult me that night were still vivid in my mind. He said that I was willing to be cheap and that even after being reborn, I was still willing to lie under Shinyenjo. He didn't know that Shinyenjo was reborn too, and he didn't know what happened between Shinyenjo and me that night. It had only been 3 months since the loss of that life. During this period, my mom accompanied Aunt Shin to the apartment to look for Shinyenjo, but they found me living here. Looking at the way they were pursing their lips and giggling, I didn't want to explain anything. However, 3 months passed, and my application notice came out. Although my parents nagged about what I was going abroad for at my age, they still followed my wishes in their actions. They took the initiative to learn about the local climate, environment, and culture abroad, and they even started planning how many times they would come to see me in a year. I don't know if Shinyenjo said something to his parents, but in any case, Uncle Shen and Aunt Kai no longer mentioned the matter between me and him in front of me. This really made it much easier for me to face them. On the day I boarded the plane, Shinyenjo didn't come. I knew that he understood me. Although some things weren't done by him, it didn't mean that he hadn't caused me any harm. Having a second chance, some things won't happen again, but it doesn't mean that those harms never existed. The plane is about to take off. Please confirm again that your seatbelt is fastened and all electronic devices are turned off. Thank you. Goodbye, Shinyenjo. I wish you a good rest of your life. End of the main text. Shinyenjo's epilogue. At the age of 8, I saw Aunt Bai's photos on my dad's computer. There were so many of them. I asked my dad why there were so many photos of Aunt Bai. Dad made classified photo albums according to people. Look, everyone has their own album, including your mom's, Uncle Lin's, and yours and Nuanyuan's. I took a look, and it was indeed the case, but later I realized that all those photos were taken by my dad at the age of 12. Shihao said that he liked Nuanyuan and wanted to marry her when he grew up. I beat him up. Of course, I got beaten up too. I started to think that I also liked Nuanyuan and that I must marry her when I grew up. I took out the photo album and traced Nuanyuan's portrait, but suddenly I had a start. I remembered the photos of Aunt Bai stored in my dad's computer. Did he like Aunt Bai? What about my mom? At the age of 16 on Nuanyuan's birthday, everyone said that she and Aunt Bai looked so alike that they could be easily taken as mother and daughter at first glance. I also looked like my dad, and we were clearly father and son at a glance. So, were we all supposed to like that similar face? No, I didn't like it. Through my continuous observation, I was sure that my dad really liked Aunt Bai. He would always peek at Aunt Bai. Occasionally, when he picked up his phone casually, I guessed that he was secretly taking photos of Aunt Bai, but I never got the chance to touch his computer again after further observation. It seemed that Aunt Bai didn't know about this. So, should I praise my dad or what? This damn family. Brother Yenjo, what are you thinking about? Nuanyuan's fair face suddenly came into my sight. Her eyes were almost identical to Aunt Bai's. I numbly turned my head away and said indifferently, nothing. I knew that Nuanyuan relied on me a lot, but I didn't know if this reliance was love. The elders teased her about what kind of boyfriend she would look for in the future. She said she wanted someone like me, and she added that he should be someone who smiled more than I did. So it wasn't me. I took a deep breath. It didn't matter. I didn't like her in a romantic way originally. To prove myself, I treated her better and better, but I was still able to date other people unexpectedly. The little girl also got a boyfriend that was fine. Suddenly, I found dating boring and broke up with Su Xinlan. She made a fuss about going abroad, and I let her go. When we got to the airport, she threatened to commit suicide. Again, as expected, it was boring. I had a car accident, lost my memory, and then I regained my memory. Nuanyuan was pregnant with my child. My dad actually looked at me with envy. It was so damn disgusting. It instantly washed away the throbbing and joy that Nuanyuan's words "I love you" brought me. My mom also assured Aunt Bai that she would definitely make me marry Nuanyuan. I wanted to run away from them. They had joined forces to deceive me. How could I be easily controlled? My mom said that something had happened to Nuanyuan. She went to a small clinic to have an abortion alone, and both she and the child were gone, but I know, Nguyen couldn't have gone there on her own initiative. She liked children so much. I didn't even know that there was such a person as Chen Shuha meddling in our business. I deserve to die. Nguyen, wait for me. Probably because there was justice in the world, I was reborn. I will never allow such a scumbag as Chen Shuha to stay by Nguyen's side anymore. But Nguyen, she didn't want to come back to me even though we didn't mention the past. I just knew it. She didn't want to in this life. Nguyen chose to go abroad. I watched the plane soar into the sky and suddenly raised my hand, wanting to grab it. In the end, I could only wave my hand. I think I eventually became my dad. The end.